Thank you. Good afternoon. It's just after 2 p.m., 2:12, and this is the joint EC, Education Culture, HHS Committee to round out and continue and finalize our recommendation related to early care and education NDA. We had a number of follow-up items and questions that were asked by the joint committees. And I have a feeling there are some answers. And so we will, and then probably more questions as it tends to happen. But we will start with the responses, and I think there's a slide, so I'll turn it to, unless my co-chair has anything to add, I'll turn it right to Ms. Yao to walk us through the packet and the slides, and then we'll jump into the discussion.
Okay, good afternoon. The joint HHS and ENC committee met on April 19th and 24th to review budget items involving DHHS and MCPS. There's the recommendation summarized on the first page of the pack about what the committee had decided. But at the 24th meeting, the Joint Committee received an early care and education systems update and reviewed fiscal year 25 budget items related to the delivery of early care and education in the county. Council members expressed concern about the level of unspent funds that continue to roll over from year to year in the ECE-NDA and questioned whether the initiative would be able to fully spend out its fund balance in fiscal year 25. Also, council members requested additional information about the activities proposed for fiscal year 25 and their impact. So one of the things that was requested was from Chair Jawando about the data on the number of children in the county and available ECE seats. And COA provided information that's attached to your packet at circles 4 to 12. The data reported included that there are 74,409 children ages 0 to 5. Approximately 40,711 children 5 and under live below the self-sufficiency standard of 500% FPL. Approximately 20,027 children 5 and under live below 300% FPL. And there were in fiscal year 23 to 24, 23,641 seats for children 5 and under. There's a breakdown of age at circle 7. And we do have slides that that COA had provided. I don't know, Kimberly, if you wanted Ms. Rusnak to walk you through those slides, or
just very quickly. I think they're so pretty, and I did ask for it. So let's just. I think and it does kind of encapsulate the whole conversation. So let's take a minute to do it. Yeah. And you did all the work to do it. I don't know if you already had this existing.
So we had some of it. Kimberly Rusnak, Executive Director of Children's Opportunity Alliance. Thank you guys for the opportunity to talk through some of the data. So this has been what the Alliance has really been working on over the last couple of months to pull this together to understand capacity and enrollment, but yet at the same time we also know there's further work that needs to be done because there are still some holes in the data. And I think long-term looking forward, we would really love to be able to disaggregate the data. But right now we're just hitting high-level data points. So are we going to share the PowerPoint?
I am. I'm waiting for our IT folks to
It's
magically.
Appear, I think.
Okay. Well, then I'll start talking to them. There we go.
Something's happening. Look at that. All right.
So we really are leveraging publicly available data and partnerships with both HHS and MCPS to be able to get to this picture of availability and use of child care seats in Montgomery County. So the next few slides will capture the snapshot of children 5 and under overall, but then also get into some of the details of the different programs and offerings. So for context, this is what Ms. Yao referred to. There's 74,409 young children who are 5 and under. And we know that 55% of them live below the self-sufficiency standard, and that is work that's done by the Community Action Agency to get to that data. We also know that there are 75% of young children live in families where both parents or all available parents work. So we know that this means that those families who have children are making difficult decisions at times about where their children will be while the parents are at work. We also know that there's an upcoming supply and demand study that will help us better understand which families need care, what kind of care they would prefer to have. And as we all know, there is much greater choice in types of care at this age, and supporting that parent choice is very important. So there are several publicly funded programs aimed at helping families to access quality early care and education, primarily targeting those in greatest need. So when we look at programs, they have different eligibility requirements, which oftentimes are very difficult for parents and families to navigate to figure out which programs they qualify for. So this chart talks about the different tiers, and these are also connected to Blueprint and what is happening as we think about pre-K expansion. So it creates this 3-tier system where currently for the past 2 years with Blueprint, they've been targeting Tier 1 students who are families who are that 300% federal poverty line or below. And just to make note, here in Montgomery County, even though the Tier 2 is when the parents might need to start paying for care, we do believe that there are some families who, even when offered care with that sliding scale, might still struggle to pay for childcare or pre-K. So our best estimates is that there are about 40% of young children in Tier 1 and about 40% in Tier 2 and 20% in Tier 3. So the next slides provides an overview of the availability and usage of the wide range of availability care types, including publicly funded programs. So this data has been collected and analyzed by our team over the past year from federal census data, MCPS data, DHHS, and other sources. And it's important to note that some of the numbers presented here are estimates, as data collection methods often result in incomplete or duplicative information. But despite these limitations, estimating these figures allows us to identify data gaps and inform strategic decision-making moving forward. Based on the data we were able to collect, we estimate there are just under 30,000 seats in formal regulated programs available for children 5 and under. Children who stay in their own home with their parents, nannies, or au pairs are not included in this chart. And they might also be considered under that family, friend, and neighbor care line. So last week, Ms. Arnaz shared that there are roughly 40,000 seats available in private providers, and these are child care centers and family child care homes. But that number includes before and after care and programs that serve children up to the age of 12. So given the way that MSDE tracks licensing, the number of available seats for children to 0 to 5 is very hard to determine. But the best estimates provided by the Maryland Family Networks falls closer to about 20 to 21,000 seats in our county. So now we're looking at, on the demand side, there are a lot of unknowns about how children are receiving care or if they are receiving care at all. Looking at the usage of seats in school year 24, we only have data on where 6,872 children were ages 5 and under in terms of where they were going for care, which is approximately 9% of the total population. And there may be some
I think we
duplication.
need the next slide.
Yeah,
There we go.
sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
sorry.
Sorry.
So
Can you
there's
just say that one more time?
There's enrollment and there's capacity.
Yep.
So capacity
Capacity
is
was
how
the
many
last slide.
seats we actually have, versus this slide is enrollment, where we know children are enrolling. So you have your early Head Start program, your Head Start, the EquiCare grants that were spoken of last week, pre-K and Head Start, special education pre-K, et cetera. So with this, we know for this current school year of 23 to 24, there were approximately 6,872 children, 5 and under, served through these different programs. And what we know or believe is that there is some duplication because children may attend more than one type of program. They could be at a half-day pre-K program at MCPS from 9 until noon or 1, and then they're going to some type of regulated child care that's being funded by a child care subsidy at the state or working parents assistance locally. So the state does not collect information about enrollment in private care programs. We believe that not all licensed seats are filled due to both staffing and access issues, and we hear that as we get out and talk to providers, that we know there are seats that are available that are not being filled. So despite these limitations based on capacity and enrollment data, we estimate that about 25% of Tier 1 children are participating in publicly funded early care and education seats. However, because of this duplication, it's probably a little bit lower than that 25%. So focusing on seats for so this chart you're looking at here is for children 0 to 5 who are 300% below the federal poverty line. That's where that 25% comes from. Moving on to the next slide. This is looking at only 3s and 4s in our community. And this is looking at all children ages 3 and 4, not necessarily breaking it down by income tiers. So we believe there are approximately 5,505 of those 3 and 4-year-olds being served through publicly funded means. So at most, this supply can serve only 21% of these children in our county. So this number represents the number of seats funded by public dollars from a variety of sources, but does not include children who use subsidies to access seats in private setting. So that number would increase it by about 1,000 to 1,200 children. So moving on to the next.
Let me just make sure I understand this slide. So this is all children, 3 and 4, all 3 and 4-year-olds.
Correct.
No income. And we know some of the in the gray are being served. We just don't know where.
Correct.
Because they're in privately.
Correct.
The ones the shaded area is what we know because they're publicly funded.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. And the supply and demand study will obviously
Will help us figure out.
with this greatly.
Right.
Which I was promised last week. All of the studies will be done this year, so we're all very excited about that.
Yes, we are all very excited
Yeah.
about that.
Okay. Go ahead. Thank you.
So this piece is looking at, as we look at blueprint expansion in pre-K, there was a report that was done by HHS a year or two ago that kind of tried to look at our demographics and our numbers to figure out what this expansion will require. So with only 5,505 publicly funded seats, we know there is still a lot of work we need to do. The new blueprint requires pre-K at the school system and or community-based sites to be free for 3 and 4-year-olds in Tier 1. 4-year-olds in 2-tier can pay a sliding scale fee. MCPS will begin rolling out that Tier 2 enrollment for 4-year-olds either this next school year, we believe. At full implementation, to be in compliance with the state legislation, the best estimates from consultants indicate that we will need a minimum of 6,683 seats that are community-based seats as well as MCPS-based seats. So right now in the community, we have 208 community seats, but we need upward of 6,000. And that's the same for MCPS. So meeting that goal of 6,600 seats may seem like a daunting task, but it will require a lot of resources and out-of-the-box thinking in order to help us get there. But we know the first step to ensure that is that we know the numbers we are serving right now and that we can set goals and hold ourselves accountable as we move forward. So that's the data.
Awesome. Since MCPS was invoked and I saw eyebrows raised a little bit, I just want to, could you speak to the Tier 1 expansion and timeline that was just mentioned?
Nichelle Owens,
Tier
Director.
2, excuse me.
Director for Early Childhood and Title I and MCPS. So Kimberly mentioned the sliding scale for Tier 2. We are still waiting for MSDE to provide us with guidance on how to implement the Tier 2 sliding scale. We know it's coming. We have been briefed on it, but not in terms of implementation. So once we get that, I think we'll have a better sense of when we can start a Tier 2 enrollment process. That said, our staff keeps track of Tier 1 students who apply, of course, they get into our programs. And then for Tier 2, we do keep track of those who are over income so that we are prepared to call them back if we are able to implement the Tier 2 sliding scale once we get the guidance from the state.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for that. So maybe this year, but you need the guidance. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Resnick. That was really helpful, and thank you for, I think it's really important for us to remember where we are. And like you said, we don't fully know the where we are answer yet because we know where we are, but we don't know, we need supply and demand, and we need other things, more data to help us inform and set our goals. Ms. Yao, so now I think we can turn to, let me see if colleagues have any questions on this data. Okay, Councilmember Lukey.
Thank you. Just a couple of numbers jumped out at me. One, looking at the very first slide, the Montgomery County by the numbers slide, which if you look at shows that the 0 to 2 bucket is much larger than the 3 and 4 bucket by quite a bit, which means the expansion of seats has to grow fairly rapidly in order to fit that population. I just wanted to see if you had any comments about that.
I don't personally have any comments. I will turn to my data experts in the back, Geraldine or Laura. Do you guys have anything else to comment on that? They know the data much better than I do. That's why.
Laura Jerome, Manager of Strategic Initiatives. Simply, it's 3 age bands, 0
Right.
to 12 months, age 1 and age 2, whereas the other is just 2 age bands.
Oh, okay. So it's really not quite as because it's
right. Population is staying relatively steady.
okay. That was my one question. And then I noticed the other question I had before we move on was just you had on the one slide the difference between the school year 22 to 23 and the school year 23 to 24 on the number of special education pre-K students, and the number had expanded. Is that because there are more children who are needing those services, or is it because we are applying our early intervention strategies better?
You mean on the enrollment slide, seeing that special education seat go up? Amy, do you want to talk to that?
Good afternoon, Amy Kropp, Director of
Oop,
Pre-K.
button, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. Amy Kropp, Director of Pre-K Special Programs and Related Services in the Office of Special Education and MCPS. Yes, the numbers are growing. We experienced a shift, a dip during the pandemic. Families either weren't aware that their children, that they could access services. Their family circumstances didn't choose to do so. We saw a significant dip, and now we have seen a very significant increase farther than baseline.
Right. And so are you
yes.
expecting that number will continue to increase over time, or a projected plateau at some point?
We are not projecting a plateau.
Okay.
For pre-K, we have a lot of numbers, a lot of data of which children ages birth to 3 are receiving infants and toddler services.
Right,
So
right.
that we can track pretty closely. And then we can track child find referrals ages 3 to 5 on trend, but our trend has been upward,
Gotcha.
far upward from the pandemic, and in fact exceeded the pre-pandemic levels.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Good question. We were just talking about this morning in E&C on the operating budget. Just in the last 20 years or so, special education identification has gone up more than 40%. So across the board. So it's significant. All right. So thank you for that. I really appreciate you augmenting and creating that and turning it around so quickly. It's really helpful. I think now we can return back to the ECEI conversation, and we've got folks here. So, Ms. Yao, any context?
So again, as the Joint Committee heard at the last meeting, the executive is recommending about $11.26 million for the NDA in fiscal year 25. It's important. Projected unspent funding in 24 is about 11 million. So total available resources in 25 is projected at 22,341,000. Planned expenditures in fiscal year 25 exceed available funding by about $5 million. The tables on pages 3 through pages 5 of your packet breaks out the various recommended expenditures in the spending plan by category, previous budget expenditures, impact numbers served, and whether funding is ongoing or one time. And the committee had requested a lot of, various follow-up data that begins on page 5 of your packet. So, actually really page 6 of your packet. So one of the questions was around justification for the community portal. There are 2 items on the spending plan, about 2.275 for development, as well as community portal staff for 274,000. The response provided that the 24 budget included 1.5 million for phase 1 development, and then also encumbered 1.245 million for phase 2 development. Actually, sorry, that's 1.55 for phase 2 development. The phase 3 is going to provide provider portal functionality of online invoice and billing, bi-directional communication between fiscal team and partner vendors, and real-time communication among HHS vendors and customers. Dr. Nemhard is here from HHS. She's been very leading this process, and there are slides if you're going to walk them through, or I didn't know how you wanted to do it, but she's here to actually explain and answer questions from the committee.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I know there was some question. It was one of the bigger ticket, it was one of the items in here that was there was questions about the portal, so I think to give a brief presentation about it would be appropriate. Just pull your mic down, and there you
If
go.
you were ready. Sure. I can go through the overall project itself. Its focus. The system was developed with the idea of from the ECI, because we're capitalizing on that interagency solution. So the idea behind the system is a portal where the community can interact with different agencies, so HHS, REC, MCPS. And we're looking to build the first part of the platform for the community at this point. I don't know if we have the slides.
We just need to get IT to
Okay.
tee them up.
So in general, it's a pretty hefty system. The idea behind the portal is it's in different modules. So you have a community space where community can apply for benefits and our services or any kind of interaction from any one of the agencies, not just HHS. So that's the reason why I want us to take us away from HHS a little bit, that this is a community platform. And the idea is that you will have a dashboard as a community member. This dashboard can enable the interaction. It can show you exactly where you are in the process of any interaction with any of the agencies. For the first one we're building is for HHS at this time, and it will encompass the Working Parents Assistance Program and Care for Kids and county senior dental. So the county health and the child care subsidies will be the first of its kind.
So just to stop you on that, so thank you for clearing that up. It's going to serve multiple folks,
Yes.
but it's on the ECI budget.
Yes.
The entire amount is under their budget, or is there other sources contributing to it?
There aren't other sources at this time, but on the ECI committee sits MCPS and REC, and those are the other entities that we're pulling
That are
in
on
different
ECI.
phases.
Okay, got it. So the total cost of this platform, is in this budget?
Yes.
Got it. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I see Ms. Lambert nodding, so that makes me feel doubly good about it. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
You continue.
So next slide. And of course, I want to talk about the basic benefit that you'll get from this. The customer can see increased flexibility. All interactions with us right now, both REC, MCPS, and HHS, are on paper. The client has to fill out stacks of these individual papers of applications every time, the same information, the same recertification. What this platform is going to do is going to directly interface with our eligibility system, and in a revolutionary space, we're also going to be doing presumptive eligibility, which is not done anywhere else. So when you apply, your application will be processed. You will get information back as to your eligibility for whatever number of kids you apply for within minutes. We're working on that technology right now. Next slide. Next slide, you can move. Okay, so go live, before I start going through the platform itself, for June 30th, July 1st, the first part of the system that will go live will be the online dashboard for the community. So that's full online. You can apply. You'll have real-time processing status of your application. You'll also have bi-directional communication with the people that's processing your application. So the customer, if they forgot a document, if our document wasn't clear, we can literally just send them a message through the platform where they'll see that message, they'll respond to us, they'll send a document to us, they never have to show up to our space. They can do everything electronically. We'll also be actually demoing the web application version of this platform. So we'll be on the web, and it'll be on the platform itself. It will be in at least 6 different languages, which was the most arduous task, but all of these languages will be available once the system goes live. Next slide. The next release that we're looking at is the project itself has modules. So in any space, you've got about 3 to 4 different players. You've got the customer, government agency, and you've got our partners or private providers. One of the things that we're trying to provide to everyone is transparency and visibility. So the customer will be provided service in real time. That service will also be shown to the provider, saying the customer applied, here's what they applied for, here their eligibility for the time frame, here's the child that will be entering into your space. You will then bill us for this child. We will then process those invoices. The customer will see all of this transaction between the customer and the provider. That doesn't really exist right now. All this is happening with phone calls and paper invoices that are being sent in to our system. So I just want to make sure that the next phase will be the provider portal. The reason why we decided to do a project like this in phases, apart from the fact that it's kind of revolutionary because it really doesn't exist anywhere else, we wanted to make sure we were taking practical chunks of it. And we also wanted to make sure that when we do a phase drop in the public, because it's new, we wanted to make sure we have enough feedback from the public to make sure that that system is working and it's meeting their needs. So there isn't a very open marketing around the drop of this portal in July, and the reason for that is we want to make sure that during that time, almost that first year, while we're working on the provider piece, we can get feedback in the system from our customers. The system is built that way, so once you're going through it, you can provide us constant feedback as to your experience, so we can enhance that and then actually provide a better system the next following year. For the next year, we'll be looking at the provider space, and following year, we're hoping to add our other agencies. The information that the client provided, and I'll show you, I'll go through the system real quickly later. Next slide. This is what the system looks like. This is what your dashboard would look like, and all your programs that you can apply for at this time will be in that first part of the dashboard. We are working directly with TEBS on interoperability, so you will have your own login and your own dashboard space. Next slide. You will have a space where you'll see all your application that you've created, all the application that's saved, and the different statuses.
We needed ECEI on. We needed early childhood on his.
Yes, we will.
That would have been good for the presentation. Yes. Go ahead.
Next slide. And the detail part of your dashboard, you can go into your programming. You'll see where you are in the process. The other part of what we did with this application is you'll also see the top part where we'll be walking our customers through each step of the process. So we divided the application into different buckets where it's easy to navigate. Here's your information, here's your household information. We also provide information on top as to what you need to apply. So before you open this portal, here's the documentation, or here's the information that you're going to need to apply. So we'll have that. We also have the steps to show your progress as you're going through each application. Next slide. And this is just some of the basic information that we collect. All this information, I just wanted to make clear, you will never have to enter this information again in this dashboard. The only time you'll have to be able to do that is if it changes. So this system will keep this information. Your recertification will take you 5 minutes. Your first application might take you 40. But your recertification will take you no time because you never have to re-enter that information unless it's changed, like your address and things like that. But your demographic information, including your household and yourself, unless that changes, you will never have to enter that again. And we will provide that information back to the customer. Next slide. And of course, this is each step of the platform. We kind of navigate people through the next step, right? We'll tell them, okay, this is the next step is this is the type of information that you're going to be needing, and so on and so forth. You can add your also members. When you add these also members, you'll never have to add them again. And this information will live independent of any application. So if you need this information for a rec, or if you need it for MCPS, or it will always be in this in one area of the platform. Next slide. Keep going. Next slide. And of course, the expenses, that's also going to be saved and housed. Next slide. Each application will be logged in the system. You will see the status of each application and each benefit. The child care space is really tedious in terms of how you apply because kids have different age. They go to different providers. They go at different times. So there are times when you have a benefit for a child, for before and after for one child, full day for another. You'll be able to see all of this in your dashboard, in your space, and track it. You'll also see the time frame when you're covered. Next slide. This is one of the best part of the system. You can store all your document here. You'll have it in your dashboard. If you go anywhere in the county, anywhere, you can literally pull this up on your phone and access that document that you uploaded. So if you uploaded your ID at one point and you go to REC or you go to MCPS and they want to see an ID, you can pull that documentation up and show it to that person. One of the things that's happening in that space in our customers navigating our services is that they have to carry around the same documentation to multiple different programs. And this will help in terms of identifying the document. It will always be there. We will show them when something expired and things like that, but they will always have access to each document when they visit any other space. Next. And of course, one of the things that we're doing is that this is completely interfacing with our eligibility system. So our caseworkers no longer have to pick up the phone. They can send a text, which goes to the person's email box to say your application that you sent in, the document wasn't clear. Could you please resend this document? Or we need this information, or your recertification is coming up. Those kinds of things. So the system will be able to remind people of their different eligibility status, or if their application has been processed. Next slide. And of course, this is just it shows at the end all the information that you put in and whether or not you're ready to submit. I think that's it.
Thank you. That was Speed Connect through the portal. That was great to see. I really appreciate that. I know Councilmember Albanaz, Co-Chair Albanaz, has questions, and if other colleagues let me know. Okay, yes. Councilmember Albanaz.
All right, well, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for the presentation. It's helpful to see it because when it was described earlier, that didn't really do it justice. It sounded more like just a website. I had a couple of I'm not a technology expert by any means, and anybody who knows me can confirm that, but what software platform are we planning on using to carry out the application?
So we're using React technology. So it is actually flexible with any changes that we make in terms of the actual sign-in for the actual system, the dashboard part of your own login, like my info. We're repurposing the Access MCG for that. So we've been working with TEBS for that secure space. So it's kind of two different things: the actual platform itself versus your login and verification to the site, to the platform.
Gotcha. And who will be maintaining this on our end? Is that done through contract, or are we going to be doing that in-house, or we do it both ways? I'm familiar with both pros and cons of both, but just, again, staying on the technology side, curious.
So it is hosted by TEBS. It will be hosted by TEBS. It's under contract right now, will be maintained under that contract until the system is completely developed. What the idea is that once we start expanding to other agency, we're going back to the drawing board to figure out who will own this enterprise solution. So it kind of starts in HHS, but we're hoping that this will become an enterprise solution for the county and be possibly owned by TEBS in the future.
Yeah, because this could potentially be phase one. If this goes really well, then it could potentially be connected to other county services to create more of a one-stop shop. But clearly the phase one has to go well. Which leads me to the second line of questioning, which is sort of rollout. Having it in different languages, clearly important, but as we know, and everybody in this room knows, that's only half the battle. You have to ensure cultural sensitivity and be able to walk people through, particularly since this is so new and I would say innovative. What is the rollout plan to partner with various organizations and individuals and residents? It's more than just marketing.
Yes.
You know what I mean? How are we going to do that?
So the first rollout, before this rollout, we have done robust testing in the community with community members and partners within the space. One of the things we're also looking to do is having focus group from people with different languages to see how they're experiencing the site. Another thing that we're going to have in the system is a navigation kind of training walkthrough. So you can walk through the system and how to apply and navigate the system in your own language. So we're going to be having that step by step, which kind of doesn't exist in a lot of platforms that are public right now. You kind of have to guess. What we're trying to build is to have personalized training through, if different steps, the different parts of the portal to have training there. In terms of the public space, we're looking to partner with libraries and a lot of partners in the space that's in this work. So the childcare providers, which we are engaging right now for the provider side, and a lot of the partners that we work with in different programs that serve the population.
Okay. I'm going to have more questions, but I'll take myself out of the queue for now.
Thank you. Councilmember Luke?
Thank you. One of the projects I got to work on in my old job and many years ago, and it's only newly online, is MD Think. For on the legal side of things, and you know, I know that was 10 years in the making, and it only came to my attention today that this was a multi-entity sort of thing, and I'm sitting here going, I don't recall us talking about the development of this portal last year during budget. And you know, certainly I'm curious about that, but the chair asked if the total cost was in this budget, in the FY25 budget, and you all said yes, except that can't be possible because one of the other slides notes that the ECEI stuff doesn't come on the portal till FY26, so there's got to be anticipatory additional funding in out fiscal years in order to make this happen. So I was wondering if somebody could clarify that.
Yeah, and I will note, as you're looking, when I look at the chart in the packet here, I see a $2 million cost, 2.275, and then for this year, it's 274. The question I was asking is, and I might not have been as clear, is was all that 2,275,000, this connects to Councilmember Lukey's question,
Yes.
supposed to come out of the ECEI budget over time? And I understood you to say yes, but maybe that was not what you meant to say.
Yes,
So
I'm sorry,
now you
I
can answer.
misunderstood the
Yeah.
question.
That's okay. That's okay. That's why we're having the question. So,
Yes.
with the 2.275 million line item that's in our current FY25 budget in the chart in the packet, as well as the 274,000, which is a related expenditure noted for the same project, is that all for FY25 as it appears in the packet? But yet that is not the total cost because there will be additional cost in the out years for this project that we
26.
are unaware of the amount of at present, right?
Yes.
Okay. And we did not get information on how much was spent or projected to be spent for FY24 already on this project? Or do you know?
We do, actually.
Okay.
So, again, the budget for '24 was 1.5 million. So far, 1.2 million has been spent. Then an additional 1.5 has been encumbered for phase 2. So it's actually more than the 1.5 total.
Right, so that it's, if I'm doing my math right, 2.7 total that would have been encumbered or spent in FY24 by the time we get to the end of FY24.
That's my understanding. at
In
least from
another
the-
60 days. Okay. And that is for the phase 1 portion of this program, which is supposed to go live on or about July 1st, right? Okay. And then, I'm sorry?
I'm
Yes.
sorry, I just wanted to make a correction there. 1.5 million was for phase 1.
Uh-huh.
And out of that amount, 1.2 million has been spent. 2.8 million has been encumbered or set aside for phase 2.
Oh, okay.
During fiscal year '24.
Okay.
And then the 2.275 is the spending plan for fiscal year
For
'25.
FY25. So it's
Yeah.
the 2.8 million that's been encumbered plus the 1.5 million that was spent for FY24?
Correct,
So that's 4.3 million total.
yes.
Okay. FY23 was included in that as well, or was that all FY24, I thought?
As-
Yeah, I don't have the fiscal '23 amount. I don't think it was very much money.
Right, but so the 1.5 and the 2.8 that you've discussed were all for FY24?
Correct.
Okay, all right. And in terms of who will own the enterprise solution, that is a great question and a great point. And, you know, wondering how that would affect us down the pike in terms of especially if TEBS is using things that they're able to adapt and be agile with in interfacing with this, it gives us more leeway and flexibility. But, and I'm assuming when you were discussing to Councilmember Albernaz's questions about the system architecture, that's the part that's contracted out presently, right? But the maintenance and the operation will be in-house.
For now, it's under contract.
Right, until completion of all phases
Yes, we're
of.
hoping to transition that to in-house, whatever
Okay.
that looks like.
Okay, and then this is going to seem silly because this is not a budget question, and that's where I've been up to this point. But in terms of facilitating name changes within the portal, and for any of us who've had to go through name changes, it's not fun. And if you're trying to do things like get your kid a driver's license, which I might have done this morning, you have to bring extra paperwork if your name is no longer the same as the one on the. So is there an ability, or will there be an ability that is already going to be baked into this portal to allow that kind of flexibility so that individuals can upload it once and have their name changed forevermore within the system?
Yes, so we're hoping to relieve some of that burden. So one of the things that happens, this system is the community space, and whatever system it interfaces with and pulls that data, that system gets updated also, which in the data world, we're really happy about, because duplication is a big problem for us.
Yes, yes. And I know, for example, like with the MVA, they ping the Social Security's database daily, right? So they're able to get a daily feed and reconcile identities at the MVA every single day. But not everybody has a Social Security number, right? And so we may be serving folks who don't have a Social Security number, and that creates other challenges. So I am assuming that the system will be designed with that in mind, knowing we need to have that flexibility in the architecture to do identity resolution so that we're not leaving someone without access.
Yes, we're hoping to provide functionality where that would be seamless for customers that don't have that, because that's one of our challenges right now with our case management system,
Right.
Folks that have Social Security versus those that don't. And you do have to provide different functionality on those verification, but they will be there in the system.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Lukey. Councilmember Sales.
Thank you. I just had a few follow-up questions about the dashboard. I'm so glad that we're going to have a place to track and monitor the metrics, and just wanted to better understand what metrics we would be tracking across this dashboard before it's shared with other entities.
Do you mean the data dashboard that COA is developing for early childhood, or the client portal specifically?
Oh, I was talking about COA. Are we talking about?
Not Kim.
Not there.
No, we're on the client portal.
Okay, I will hold that question. Thank
Okay,
you.
No problem. Councilmember Mink.
Thanks. Just trying to make sure I understand the client portal versus community portal. Go ahead.
So the community portal is, think about it as an envelope. And within this portal, you have a client portal space, a provider portal space, and other solutions. So you'll have a space where a client can have their dashboard and they interact and they apply. Another space where providers are interacting with agencies for payment based on those services. When I say community portal, it's the overall umbrella idea.
Okay. Thank you. That's helpful. So as we're looking back, I mean, this all sounds useful, so that's exciting. Obviously, the costs are, like, we're talking about a lot of money, so I just want to make sure that we're really, really clear on all that, and that, we're looking for savings where possible, that, I wish that we had gotten this level of detail like a long time ago, especially since this ties into other departments and agencies. You've been doing outreach with families to get feedback. That would be, important to hear about how that relates to, the design decisions that are being made and so on. But also because there's so much budget that's been behind this over the years. And in the packet, we've had back through like some level of line item detail through FY23. But just from that, and Councilmember Lukey was starting to break that down, in FY23, between what was listed under client and community portal, comes out to 1.5 million about 1.5 million, then FY24 is about 2.7 million, and then we're looking at FY25 of 2.5 million. So when you total all that up, and there had to have been, I assume, more prior to that also, because in the FY23 budget line, it's talking about the client portal phase 2. So I'm not sure, how much was or wasn't behind phase 1. But we're just talking about like a lot of taxpayer dollars going into this thing, and like maybe that's totally worthwhile. But I think that it's important to be having this conversation with some level of detail and transparency in the public. So far we've already, we're into the 4 million range now, and looking at more. And I don't know what service that is providing yet. Maybe none yet, but it's about to, starting in July. But I just, we ask a lot, for example, of TEBS as they come to us asking for funding to overhaul the county website. And last year we cut their request significantly because there wasn't enough detail, and they came back again this year with more detail. So I'm just noting, again, what's being described and what we're seeing looks like something that is useful, and I very much appreciate that it's responsive to feedback that you've been getting from the community. I have concerns about how much money has already been spent, and we're looking at spending in the coming fiscal year without kind of having hashed this out in some detail, both with the committee, but also via the committee, like to the public, including why the costs are so high. Is this a standard cost that we're talking about over these years for a portal like this? So I yield.
Thank you. Okay, so let's go back to the packet.
Okay. Next item is a question about the value of family involvement centers versus part and full day, other kinds of services. And the executive provided information about that they're providing this approach to early childhood education for caregivers, including friends, families, and neighbors who are caring for children and not attending formal group settings. Again, I think the goal of the Early Care and Education Initiative is to improve these services for all children in our community, regardless of where they are. They're in the process of finding a vendor through an RFP process to assess the impact of the program and gain insight into the requirements of caregivers who opt for this informal child care preschool options. So there, for that item, there's $50,000 in materials for new sites, and 11 of the 14 positions that are recommended to be switched from brokers to merit staff. There's 14 are assigned to the family involvement centers. 4 of them are proposed to be at new sites.
Do you want to add anything to that? If you don't have to. Okay, so you responded. Any questions from colleagues on the family involvement center items? Councilmember May.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the additional information. My question fundamentally about this, though, is still about the comparison of the value of these versus seats for full day daycare. And understanding that we are looking to improve the ecosystem at large, but also noting that, for example, MCPS is funding changing their part-time seats into full-time seats because more parents want those. So I would just be curious to get more information about, what percentage of this youth population that we're looking at serving, what percentage of those families would prefer to have the Family Involvement Center as opposed to part-time or more full-time seats as we think about where we're making those expansions and where we're falling short.
So as Ms. Yao had
Just
expressed
introduce
earlier,
yourself again.
Jennifer Ognice, Administrator for Early Childhood Services, DHHS. So as Ms. Yao had said, the purpose behind Early Care and Education Initiative is to look at all aspects of birth to 5. And we spoke last time about parent choice being really primary in terms of providing services and resources to families based on their needs and their what they want. We do know that there's a segment of population who will not choose to go to either a Head Start or a pre-K or to licensed childcare. So the aspect of having opportunities for what is very popular in many of our communities of having what's called family, friends, and neighbors, FFN care, but giving them opportunities also to have some high-quality experiences and socialization for their young children. So that's the purpose behind that. There really isn't anything like this across the state. There are programs that are somewhat similar, home visiting, but really to give that opportunity for children to engage with each other and have that be sort of the bridge to go on to something else. The programs that we have right now are highly utilized by children who are cared for by grandparents, aunts and uncles, las tías, las abuelas, so that this gives them an opportunity to not be at home, but to be in a structured environment. And there's also a parent education component. All of our staff are parent educators, so modeling appropriate social emotional development with the children. So it's an opportunity. We do know that the sites that we have right now, we have 3, Rockville, Gaithersburg, and Silver Spring, as I said, are highly utilized. The idea is to expand that. Once we have our evaluation study completed, we'll have better clarity as to what direction to go in, whether it's a mobile unit, if it's stationary, in what location of the county, how to provide the services also, if there's a different model that should be incorporated. You know, those will all come out after our evaluation.
Thank you.
If I may also add, so for the record, Dira Tradvan's currently serving in the role of Chief of Children, Youth, and Family Services. We're making our way towards an upstream solution to the access to early care and education. We're working our way there. There's multiple efforts that are happening, but we still have a long way to go. And until we get there, we're still going to need to be able to equip families with different options and different vehicles to still have access to good quality care. So until the upstream is fully fixed 100%, then something like this can go away. But as a community, as an ecosystem, as an environment, we're not there yet. We're working our way there. So I would caution that I think we need to be very careful that as we're thinking of the long term, we're also not closing doors, because some families are, quite frankly, in completely different places and have different needs. There's multiple doors in terms of what quality education looks like. And as parents, you all know, we all like to have our own choice of this is what works for me. I prefer to have a family member take care of my kid versus a center that I might not know, for many different reasons. But I just wanted to sort of just preface with that. We're working our way towards an upstream solution, towards a big, deeply entrenched systemic issue, and we should be mindful not to close certain doors for families, because it's gonna take a long time before we go there. Could we? If we have seats tomorrow, if this amount of money can offer seats for everybody, sure, go ahead, do it. But the reality is that it's not gonna do it. So just wanted to offer those 2 cents. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Councilmember Lukey.
Thank you. Yes. So I too was sort of milling over the FIC versus programs we do at REC versus programs we do at the library, and I know Kim has heard me say this term. I call it kinship care, when the family, friends, and neighbors kind of arrangement, which often happens organically within a community. And I know, sort of instead of aftercare, that was what we worked out in my own former neighborhood, right? Because we had a rotation of who was home and when, and who got kids off the bus when they were little and they couldn't be home alone, and we wanted to make sure everybody got a snack, that kind of stuff. And we use some terms interchangeably, right? There's childcare and there's early childhood education, and those aren't necessarily the same things, right?
Yes, they are.
They are?
They are.
Okay, but not all child care is meeting the Blueprint standard, am I right?
So early care and education refers to all activities that happen birth to 5. So child care is the licensed component. Blueprint is done with, really, it's targeted as an age group, 4-year-olds, preschool. So
Right.
It's all within the same realm. And so segregating child care from the education is doing a disservice to the entire group of birth to 5.
Okay, but for example, if I'm a parent, and you talked about parental choice being important, and I'm looking at whether a program is or isn't certified and does it meet the criteria under the Blueprint or not, that's a thing that informs my decision making, and that's the standard where the state wants folks to be going. And the whole point is to make sure that our 3- and 4-year-olds then have quality early childhood education so that they can arrive ready for kindergarten. correct?
So within licensed childcare, so Blueprint is a component of it, but the licensure is another component. And I don't want to forget about the infants and toddlers, because
Sure.
that's where the most growth is going to happen. So ensuring that we have a system that includes that birth to 5, and Blueprint is one component of it. And the state does want to have those Blueprint seats, 50% of them in the community, but they must be in licensed childcare.
Right.
So we're looking at curriculum, teacher qualifications, but licensure should not be discredited either.
Right. No, I'm well aware of all of COMAR's requirements and the flexibility of them and what's different for Montessori versus what's different for a different type of childcare facility versus religious facilities requirements versus non-religious facilities requirements, and they're different. They're all different.
Correct.
And for a layperson to discern that is very hard. Right? So I do appreciate that the FIC programs allow a connected opportunity for a shared experience between a caregiver, whether it's a parent or another relative or a grandparent, and the child to connect, and also an opportunity to provide them with information. But it's not clear to everyone, and they aren't all the same. And one of the hopes of the Blueprint was to, again, level set and make sure there was some standard that children were getting so that they could get to kindergarten to start their K-12 education in a place of readiness that hasn't been there before and hasn't been received evenly across the board by all children in all communities. And so, you know, I thank you, Ms. Treadvance, for expressing what you did about, you know, the fact that we don't want to shut a particular door because we don't have all the seats yet that are available. That is very true. But I also want to be mindful that we are maximizing where we are investing our dollars to meet those goals, to help those children get to where they need to be so that they're meeting the standards that the Blueprint set out. So when they start kindergarten, they are ready to learn at that level. And that's where I'm not always clear in all of the different things as to how we're getting there. And I do view that the kinship care as a vital service, particularly for those who are not always willing to engage with something brand new, and it is more culturally familiar, and certainly that was the way it was when I was growing up too. It was just the way it was. I never went to preschool. I never went to summer camp. It didn't happen. It didn't exist in the world I grew up in, right? Everybody was in each other's houses, and you know, you'd leave and you'd come home when somebody stood on the doorstep and yelled and told you it was time for dinner, but we were just sort of out there. But we're trying to make sure that we're investing our tax dollars in the things we need to get to in order to get to the goals, the policy goals that have been articulated by the state. And I'm not always sure that we're getting there with some of the programs that we're doing. And so I'm hoping that we do see that ramp and shift and change in where things are going. And with 75% of the children 5 and under, as noted in the first slide that you put up, being those where the parents were both working, where they had a household full of working parents and people who were the caregivers, that's important to get us to that full day care. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lukey. So I think we've done family involvement.
Right.
So let's go to the next one.
Next one is the CDFI that, sorry, I'm trying to find my place. It's, again, $5 million that will be used for forgivable
Loans to providers, right?
Yes.
Is that right?
And the question was, how would they be disseminated? What areas would be targeted? How did they come up with this particular amount? And so on page 7 of your packet is a list of the work group and the zip codes, and based on the information that they gathered from their work with providers, that's how they came up with this particular recommendation.
So there's a brief paragraph here that says a RFP will be released in early FY25 to contract a community investment fund. Do you have what's early FY25 is sometime this calendar year, I would assume.
So in the first quarter, we'll be releasing that RFP.
you'll release the RFP in the first
Yeah,
quarter.
so it's in final draft now to go over to
Got it.
procurement.
And 5 million, so you want to, into the questions of, so I understand these providers were spoken to, and I'm assuming this is something that came from the group, that they could use help with this type of investment. Can you just speak more to that and then to the amount again?
Sure.
Why the amount?
It was a 9-month study that we had engaged with our childcare community, business owners and operators, administrators. The list is in front of you, that we had work groups together. We had other partners and stakeholders in the community as part of those work groups, along with the providers. We had interviews and focus groups to delve into where the struggles and challenges were, for expansion and for quality improvement. What are various scenarios, accessing funds to be able to do that. And so the resulting recommendations were really a co-designed approach with these work groups and the various individuals that you see here. We tried to cast a wide net in the county, a variety of types of programs, various zip codes, and so what was really recommended or elevated from there were these no interest and forgivable loans. So we are looking at a vendor, CDFI, a Community Development Financial Institution, to be able to have a $5 million account that would be able to do the process of application, technical assistance, how to apply, and process those either forgivable loans or no interest loans.
Folks who are in the space and need help.
They're existing providers, and so also within the group, we did think about targeted communities in our jurisdiction where there may be low numbers of high quality programs that want to elevate to level 5 accreditation, possibly if those who want to pursue a blueprint and they need to make structural changes. We've also looked at prioritizing family child care, so family child care and targeted zip codes, as well as being Excels rated, so they have to be participatory in the systems that we have existing right now.
Got it. So the use of the funds could vary, but you
Correct.
Yeah. And how did you get to the $5 million number?
It was a consensus within the steering committee through our co-designed approaches.
How many folks did you think?
Yeah, we looked at, so the state had something somewhat similar, and so we're looking at what they had invested during, what's it called? After COVID, the other set of amount of money that came out, ARPA funds, thank you.
Yeah.
And so looked at how much they used and how many programs they were able to serve. We looked at the number of programs that exist right now, and so within our committee, that was the funding amount that we decided.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. Any questions from colleagues on the CDFI piece? Councilmember May.
Thank you for this additional information. Wanted to understand if the folks who you talked to had any questions or concerns about going this route, loans as opposed to grants?
So that's why we had built in forgivable loans. So depending, we looked at the amounts also in terms of how that would be, what would qualify as a forgivable loan versus a no interest loan. Family child care would get a smaller amount than a center, for example, that we'd max out at the amount that would be given to each one. And that was really from the group in terms of what they felt comfortable, what they could either pay back or if it were forgivable over a period of time. So for example, the recommendation was that it was a forgivable loan over a 5-year period. So we would continually deduct the amount by 5. And so if they for some reason closed at year 3, they'd have to pay back the remaining balance. Everyone the group was very adamant that there was a mechanism to also keep themselves in the system and because too many times we see turnover and closures, and so this is a mechanism they felt that would keep them in the field of childcare. So
thanks. Do you have a breakdown of how, like numerically, of how this list of providers translated into the $5 million?
I'd have to go back to my notes. I know that we had figures and calculations. I have to go back to that question, so I'll have to get back to you on that.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the key piece, and making sure that we understand, like, are these all folks who have said, you know, if you make this available through the CDFI, like, I'm convinced that it's cool that it's a loan because it's a forgivable loan, like that work is already there, because, if this is money that's ready to move and they're ready to use it, that's great. If there's more work to be done, kind of massaging, you know, their comfort level with it, their readiness to apply it, and it's more likely to get spent out over a longer period of time, it would just be helpful to have context to really be able to be confident about how quickly this funding is going to be able to go out the door.
And to be clear, the RFP is for an institution to manage the loan process,
Correct.
right? Like we're ready to go once someone's willing to do it.
Correct, and so they would do the technical assistance, the recruitment, the marketing, the application process, and then the actual approval of funds.
Got it. Councilman Roberts.
So the Economic Development Corporation, when it was in the county, used to do things like this, but I hadn't heard. There may be other examples that I'm not familiar with currently with other structures. There's pros and cons to any way that you get the money out. But within a fund, so is the vision all of the $5 million would be spent within FY25, or some of it would be kept in and then continue to be rolled over? So is there an intent for the fund to grow financially through some sort of an investment platform? That part wasn't clear to me, and the description I didn't quite understand.
I think the $5 million was intended to be a pilot to see how it works.
Okay. Got it. Because if it is a fund, an interest-bearing fund, then the folks that you've listed would have fiduciary responsibilities. And that rises to a separate level in terms of their commitment as part of the overall initiative. So that's why, those details are important on the front end as you build this. I don't disagree with the concept. I just want to make sure that it's set up for success, and I know everybody does here too. And I also appreciate, just at a high level, I'll just say it, willingness to try new things. And the portal is another example of that, and so is this. But it is, it's a healthy amount that is needed for sure by a lot of these providers. And I'm just hesitant. I'm going to ultimately support this, but based on the challenges we've had on getting some of the other resources out, and not knowing, frankly, how long things take, especially when trying something new, I'm just a little anxious about that. So this is something that I do think we're going to need to check back on, probably late fall, early winter. But when do you think would be an appropriate runway for us to be able to check again on how things are going before you feel confident and comfortable that you'd have enough information to be able to report out to make it a productive session?
Realistically, I would say probably next spring. Yeah, I think by fall we'll have some tentative information, but I think spring we'll have more robust information.
Okay. All right. Yield back to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Yeah, and I was going to point out, obviously, $5 million has to be a pilot, because you could give out a heck of a lot more money to providers to retrofit space or do. You could probably do that with 1 or 2 providers, to be frank. Okay, so let's go to the next item here.
The committee wanted some additional information about the summer EBT program, how much county was putting in, how much funding was coming from other sources. So in '24, the state provided $760,000 and the county provided $720,000, and the service was about 15,000 kids in the county. For '25, the state is providing $720,000. The county is reduced its contribution to $575,000, and then there's going to be additional federal funding that's going to allow a lot more kids to be served. They're projecting about 72,000, and kids will be automatically enrolled in the summer EBT if they're school age. They're receiving farms, they're receiving SNAP or temporary cash assistance, Medicaid, foster care, all these different programs. They'll be automatically enrolled in this program. Anyone outside of those categories would have to apply and have their eligibility determined.
Any questions on that? Okay, thank you for that update. Next one.
A question was about a wait list for pre-kindergarten services in MCPS. And so MCPS has provided information that there are 180 students on the wait list. The reasons for being on that wait list include not having space in the home school, not being able to access transportation, and then that part day doesn't work for families.
And I just have a question on this. I'll come to you. How do you communicate? What's the communication loop with these families? I'm assuming there's a bunch. Some people are in multiple care categories, like because transportation and part day versus full day is probably, combined issue for most folks, for example. If something opens up or as new spots are created, how does this wait list change or move?
Yeah. So we have a team of family service workers and registrars in our main office who monitor this list and make sure we call families when we have a vacancy in a classroom. And we keep track of this. Another point of data I think it's important to share is that of the 180, 82 are 4-year-olds, which means the rest are 3-year-olds, and we don't have a whole lot of 3-year-old space. So that is a more full representation of the 180. But we do call and monitor. The other thing I would say that we do is in partnership with our Blueprint how do we call them, private providers, we reach out to them. If they have space, we certainly send children and families to our private providers, and that's part of our MOU with our providers.
Appreciate that. So most of the kids are 3-year-olds.
Yes.
We have 100 of them. Councilmember Sales.
Thank you. It would be nice to see that breakdown with that response of the 180, which ones are 3 and which ones are 4. How many slots do we have for the part-time students?
I have to go to my notes, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah. So for part-time, for pre-K, we have 1,115 part-day seats and 1,400 full-day seats.
Okay, and how many are open in the part-day? Are they all full?
No, we're 82% full in part-day.
Okay, so how many are remaining? How many are open?
The actual number. Okay, thank you. I have multiple tabs and I
You're
just
getting
don't
an
want to
assist from
miss
Kim
it.
here.
The total number of
1,115.
1,115.
And we have 82% are full.
So 82% is 914 students.
Yep, that's about right.
So that, how many are remaining, are open, vacant?
Estimated about, of that would be about
There's about
200, little over
seats.
200 seats.
Okay, so that's probably 100 AM and 100 PM, or it's not an
Yes.
even split, give or
We could
take?
yeah, give or take.
Okay, and so given that those are open, is there any opportunity to consolidate some of those to just fill those with full days since that's in demand
So-
and there's a vacancy?
Yeah, so actually we did that at the beginning of the year. We do
Okay.
monitor. We don't do it much past January, right? Because there is surprisingly additional funding that's needed when you go full day. And that's because we require a 1-to-10 or 20-to-2 ratio of adults to students. And that's simple to do when you have a part day. It allows time for both employees to have their lunch and then to have a break. But when you're in full day, it means you have to rotate in one more person, which means it's about, I think we have a 2.5-hour kind of temporary part-time person who rotates in to provide that coverage. So there is a little bit more of a cost. But we have done that this year. We did it also last year. And honestly, when we start projecting how much we're going to do a conversion for, this is the data we use. we say we have these vacant seats. Let's figure out how to combine them so that we have fewer vacant seats next year.
Okay. And do we track and monitor the areas that are experiencing the wait list?
Yes, that's the tab I had open. Let me pull it back
Okay.
up. I did ask my staff, and I have it by school. And so what I started doing is looking just by Title I school and seeing, and they're just kind of one-offs, right? So it might be 1 at one school, 3 at another school. There is a cluster up in the Germantown area where they're a little bit more, probably 5 or so. But in general, they're spread across the county. I'm just looking at this list. I don't want to name schools, but they're literally all over, from the Alney area down into downtown Silver Spring, and then in the
Yeah, it would be
Wheaton
helpful
area.
to see if there's any clusters of wait lists so that we can prioritize the location of the full-day pre-K for FY25 when we're looking at this. And since we have such a high wait list for our for the full-day demand, was there a request to transition these seats into full-day to request, or I don't know if there was a recommendation to increase the amount of money for hiring to accommodate the full day, or we just don't have the capacity?
So once the school year starts, it's a little bit harder to make the transition, but as we look into next year, we have budgeted to reduce our number of part-day seats by roughly 500 and
Okay.
transition them to part-day. That was the slide that we showed last week. So that's what I mean by looking at the data to make decisions about what to do the following year.
Okay, all right, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Sure thing.
A trend that I think the entire committee likes that you're doing, switching more to, speak for myself, the analysis to switch to more full day, and I think everyone agrees. All right, let's get into the meat.
Okay, so again, council staff had raised the issue of a structural budget concern related to the NDA. Currently, the table shows that expenditures in '25 are about $5 million over available resources. But moreover, ongoing expenses are approximately $4 million more than the recommended fiscal year '25 budget level. The committee had requested the initiative to come back with a restructured budget over multiple years that would be more sustainable. But the response that the council got back was that the steering committee had done a thorough examination of funding needs and those required to provide the outcomes of the action plan, and also respond to needs and priorities of the community. So as a result, they did not believe there was any changes that needed to be made to the '25 proposal at this time, but would be monitoring expenses and outcomes as it prepares the fiscal year '26 budget request. So that was the response from the executive.
That was a nice way of saying no.
Yeah.
Which is I wasn't happy to see, because I thought I had heard a yes from everyone last time. So that was a little surprising. But go ahead and continue with your packet.
So options for moving forward. Council staff has developed a few questions for the committees to consider and how they want to address the NDA. The first question is, are the activities developed by the steering committee to respond to community needs and priorities appropriate for funding? Council does staff note that the work of the initiatives has done quite a bit to expand access to services, and that's not just seats, but also issues related to sustainability of childcare businesses, increasing the number of licensed providers, improving the training of providers and quality service, et cetera, helping parents learn about services. So all those things are critical to ensuring that, families in Montgomery County have access to high-quality early care and education. The second question, is it likely that the initiative will spend out funding? So from fiscal year 20 to 24, the carryover amount for the NDA grew in size, but the greatest increase occurred between 21 and 22 with the availability of pandemic relief and also the need to stabilize the sector. So what we saw in 23 is the balance grew marginally, and for 24, it's projected that the fund will fully spend out the budget as well as go into some of the fund balance. It appears as well that the improvements that the initiative has been working on have been gaining traction and intensifying. There are some large ticket items, as the committee is aware and has been discussing in 25, like the CDFI, the community portal, and if implemented, they would reduce the fund balance significantly. Coupled with other enhancements that could result in, it could result in little carryover. But it depends on, again, kind of what the committee wants to do. So the next question is, should there be a limit in how much funding can be rolled over from one year to the next? Because I think committee members were concerned about, kind of the large amounts that were rolling over. Just want to note that by requiring the rollover of unspent funds to support the implementation of a multi-year strategic plan, the council provided this mechanism to preserve resources to carry out those strategic visions of improving the system. Recognizing that this takes time and that certain efforts are not necessarily going to happen, from in 1 year to, et cetera. So, if the committee believes that there should be a limit on the amount of funds that roll over, council staff can craft language in the budget resolution that places limits on these kinds of, on the amounts that can roll over. Any amounts that would result in, if there's a limit on what can roll over, the amounts in excess would be realized as a savings because they would just fall to the general fund then. The next question is, should the full amount of the NDA be approved if the amount required to support expanded ongoing services exceeds the NDA budget in future fiscal years? So the total cost of ongoing programs in the spending plan right now is $15.3 million. That's about $4 million more than the recommended budget amount for the NDA in 25. If the committee believes that this level of ongoing spending is unsustainable and does not want to support all or a portion of it, then the council can craft budget language that limits the spending on these types of ongoing programs. So, for example, the committee could limit spending on $10.4 million annually, which is the cost of actual ongoing programs that are going on now at the fiscal year 24 service level. You could say, well, you know what, we want to limit ongoing programs at the amount of the budget, which is $11.3 million. Or you could also say, well, it can be at a higher level, but understanding that continuing those services in fiscal year 25 would require an increase to the budget. You could also say that, we want the executive to restructure the whole budget and set a lower target for ongoing programming and services. So that's also an option. One other alternative that the committee can consider is, again, for program enhancements that are being recommended in the spending plan, you could place those on the new and enhanced programs list. It would increase ongoing program limits by those amounts approved by the council. So it would allow at least council scrutiny of the things that would cost more and that would require additional funding in fiscal year 26 to continue. So, if the committee believes that activities in the spending plan are appropriate, or likely that funding in the NDA will be spent out sufficiently in 25, or there should be no limit on amounts rolled over, and that ongoing services are of such a high priority that increased funding in 26 to sustain them is likely, then the committee can also recommend approval of the NDA as proposed by the executive.
Thank you, Ms. Yao, for laying out multiple options, and there's probably others that we could do too that aren't listed. So,
Right,
but
right.
but that was a really good mix. So what I would like to do is I'm going to ask one question of the team here, and then I'm going to defer to colleagues to see where they are, and then we'll see where we land. We were here a few days ago, and I thought I heard a commitment to restructure. Could we talk about, obviously we're facing challenges. The information you provided today, more in depth to some of the things, was very helpful. Obviously we have a budget, as you all know, that is very tight on a whole range of things. The commitment to early childhood is at the top of, I think, everyone's list, and it's a super important priority for the community. But I just want to hear from whomever's prepared to respond about the restructuring issue, and because here what you heard from Ms. Yao is that everything's on the table here. From we have two issues: the money that's in your spending plan, which is in the packet this time around, which we had on this sheet last time, exceeds the requested appropriation, right? So you have that issue, right, which is why we went down the restructuring. And then on the other issue, we have you've been rolling over large amounts of money year to year in your account, and there's been some concern, even though while that's an advantage of an NDA, and not everything lines up in the July to June timeline, that there's concern in a tight budget year that, well, maybe there's some savings that could be had if that's the case, if you keep rolling over large amounts. So we kind of have both problems that we have to consider here, and so I want you to speak to, one, why no restructure, and two, where do you think, why should we lean one way or the other on that continuum, which are very different continuums, either reducing your appropriation this year or asking for restructuring over more years?
I'll take a stab.
Good luck.
I think one of the first things I would like to clarify is we didn't say no, that we wouldn't restructure. The way we understood the ask was that we would like to see a potential plan, a multi-year spending plan, to which we said yes. We simply stated that for FY25, we feel confident in the decisions and the allocations of the funding. And again, the ECEI is not just HHS, it's a consortium of government entities. And in order for us to have discussions about spending down would require adequate and transparent conversations with the collective and also at the executive level, that this process would not afford us to adequately be able to have, because it would mean what are the potential unintended consequences if we cut something, in us trying to fix systemic issues around early childhood and education. Decisions matter, and we don't take them lightly. So I want to clarify that we didn't necessarily say no, we just took the heeding that we are willing to put a plan together for the following and the coming fiscal years.
You need more time to do that, is what you're saying. And you're hesitant to reduce the amount now because?
We need to consider unintended consequences. This is going to put a huge impact. We've been working on this for years.
Right.
A lot of these things, and again, it's also very conflicting narrative in both packets, right? Because in one, we're told, hey, you have a significant amount of money, you got to spend this down. We do come up with a spending plan, right? And then it's like, wait a minute. What's up with the spending? You're spending a little bit at an accelerated rate, which we acknowledge, and we will put a plan in place if given the appropriate time to do that.
Okay, is that anyone else want to respond, or is that the response? Okay, I hear the head of HHS in the back saying that's the response. All right, well, I'm going to pause for now and let my colleagues chime in on where they are. Who would like to go first? Councilmember Mink.
Interested to hear where my colleagues are. Also, I appreciate all the initiatives that are before us and the work that you all have been doing. I also, as Chair Jawanda noted, I have also concerns about the significant sums that have been rolling over. This is not like a new issue. This has been the pattern, and so maybe this is the year that's different. But how many years of patterns do we need to look at before we think about before we act on that. And so in this year where we're having so many departments and agencies who are saying, like, not only will we spend this out, but because we don't have this money, like, we're not doing X, Y, and Z. We have, MCPS shrinking important parts of their, of their staffing. We have, the needs are broad. We don't have rental assistance, and emergency rental assistance anymore. So, we just, we can't afford to have funds that are going unspent. That said, early childhood and expanding it is incredibly important, obviously, to this county, to this council, and we want to make sure that where there is potential for growth in that area, that the funding is there. So it's this balance. It's a delicate balance. And, so I would suggest looking at, that we approve the amount that's recommended by the county executive, which is the $11,260,344, and that as we look at this question of how to handle the rollover, that we take that rollover balance, split it into a couple of tranches, and then discuss with colleagues at full council and with the context of the full rec list.
Can I also just add, for reminder, that the reason why there is such a high rollover amount is because we were in the middle of a pandemic and our plans had to get halted or pivoted in order to meet those needs. And the community that met us, or that we are faced with in a post-COVID context is in a very different place than how we were planning for pre-COVID, which is why we had to develop a new action plan in order to ensure that we were meeting that. And also the landscape is, as we're going in one direction, it is literally shifting beneath our feet. So we are required to be malleable, to be flexible, to be able to get us to those upstream solutions that we want, but also responding to the immediate needs in the community, which is why you see that our portfolio of work and the things that we are funding is so vast and so broad, because it's not just about solving additional seats and access, it's about sustainability, it's about so many other things and not just one. So I just wanted to also offer that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I fully respect that. It's a difficult field that we're in for everybody's department, but especially this one where we're looking at childcare. Also as we look at the FY24 budget, as things are stabilizing, COVID-wise, marketplace-wise, there are numerous items in the FY24 budget where $0 ended up being spent on over $6 million worth of items. So again, it's the balance. I want to make sure that we fund all of the good work that was done and executed over the last year, and we want to make sure that we fund growth from there as well. It's just this balance of how much we can really afford, and I think that it's worth having that conversation within the context of the full reconciliation list.
I appreciate the comment. I just want to make sure I understood what you suggested, and maybe Ms. Yao so we are just all understanding. So the county executive recommended $11,260,344, just similar to previous year's appropriations. The estimated encumbrances and carryover. So can we separate that out? What's encumbered and what's carryover? Because I think what you said would, the number you could interpret that differently, right? Things that have been encumbered in the sense that the contracts might not have been signed, but I just want to make sure I understand the breakdown between the two. Ms. Lambert?
Well, you can't encumber something without a contract.
Yes, excuse me. So encumbered contracts have been signed versus rollover. What's
Yes.
that amount?
Okay, so the expenses estimated for fiscal year '24, $5.9 million. The encumbrances, $5.7 million. So the total expenditures and projected spending is $15.9 million for the year.
Okay, so you said 5.9 million was what number?
That was expenses.
Expenses.
Right.
If you look at are you on page 3 of your packet?
Yeah, let me roll back up here. Yep.
So the table, which shows estimated 24, the column, I mean,
Oh,
in
here
the
we
table.
go. Okay, yes, there we go. So, go ahead.
There's also,
Carry forward amount is 3.4 million.
Yes, that's the
That's
prior
the number
year.
I'm trying to get.
Those are the prior year encumbrances that are carried forward from fiscal year '23 into fiscal year
Into
'24.
24, okay.
Yeah.
So how much is is everything encumbered? No, right? So what's the number, the projected spending is what the 5.9 is the number that's not encumbered then? I'm just trying to understand what's the unencumbered number? The last one there?
Yes, the remaining balance.
Right, so the 1180,752.
That is correct.
Okay, that has not been encumbered, has not been spent. Got it. All right. So your proposal, Councilmember Mink, would be to appropriate.
Can I just want to say one thing? There
Yeah.
are plans for some of those funds. So obviously,
Yeah.
you've heard about them.
Yeah.
So,
No, obviously, yeah. We just spent most of this session going through some of the plans for the fund. So yes, I totally acknowledge. I just want to understand the request so that we're all taking the same thing.
Yeah, so the request would be to take that remaining balance, the unspent balance, to move that amount, put that amount on the rec list, split into 2 tranches.
So the 11,080,752 on the new and enhanced program list in 2 tranches, and then
Correct.
appropriate the 11,260,344 as
As
part of the
requested.
budget.
Right.
Okay. And there are plans, so
Gonna be some things in
there,
spending
speak
plans
to,
we do.
if, tell me your, so we understand the request, and I'm going to go to Councilmember Alvarez in a second, and I want to give you a chance, now that we all understand the request, what would that mean? Obviously, you'd have to see what got off the list, number one, but there could be a chance you get all, half, or none of that amount, and what that would mean to what you've presented, so.
So we exist within the confines of government processes, right? So we would need time to understand what this means. If receiving the funding in 2 separate tranches, how that delays our anticipated timeline, so we're not here before you again next budget cycle?
No, it's not that. You would get the FY25 appropriation, but the money what the proposal
the
is
allocation, the annual
rollover. We would be
allocation.
changing the rollover, because we could change the rollover amount. We could say, you have this 11 million sitting there that is not encumbered, okay? And that we would say, put that on and that's the other question. I'm assuming, as I understand the request, would be to put that rollover amount in 2 tranches on the new and enhanced program list. Yeah, go ahead.
And I'll just note that I personally, speaking for myself, would support approval of at least one of those items on the reconciliation. My continued conversation with all of you and with colleagues would be around that second tranche, the other half of the rollover amount.
So immediately, there would be a significant cut to some of the services that we have planned. So again, that's a big decision, and I think you see us all scurrying around trying to figure out what exactly does that mean to us, and I think we just it's going to definitely have an adverse impact, and we just would like to be able to have the ability to be able to come back in-house, see what that means, and see if we're going to be in a place where we can either start messaging whatever we need to message to the community, what we need to retract, where that impact is going to be, and where it might show up in a different place in our budget as a department. Because if we're cutting someplace for a need for a service, it's going to show up somewhere else.
So obviously, no decisions, that's a proposal.
Right.
And I am just having you react in real time. Even any proposal that comes from here would go to full council next in the second week of May. I don't know what day we're coming back for this, but I don't think we figured it out yet. But so there would be some time before even that decision is made. But just wanted to make sure that we understood the proposal. Councilmember Alvarez.
All right, first to our friends in the Office of Human Rights, we apologize. We're running late, obviously. And then to our other friends in HHS, because there was a second item for some of the leftover items, we will get there. And so thank you all for your patience. I know what it feels like to be in that waiting room for a long time. So several things here. Where to start? I very much appreciate and completely understand where Councilmember Mink is coming from. And I think you all, in principle, understand and feel the same urgency we're feeling, because you're feeling it too. We're feeling it from different angles, but we're all feeling the same sense of urgency. We all have the same goal. there are these very real pressures on the budget, as there are every year. And I will say, at a high level, I have said this publicly several times, I do appreciate that the county executive made very significant investments overall in the Department of Health and Human Services, acknowledging where we are as a community and the ongoing challenges that we have. And so I also was there in the first person 3 years ago when the chaos hit and HHS, more than any other agency, had to scramble to address not only the myriad of needs, but also adjust to the federal funding guidelines, which were changing by the week, and then radically changed between presidential administrations. And we had to build software platforms. All of this had to suddenly be done virtually. People weren't coming into the office. IT issues needed to be sorted out. It was a mess and frustrating for all of us, and very challenging to say the least. And so I have PTSD when it comes to that time, frankly, but this conversation brought that back for me, especially sitting where I'm sitting right now. I think I was sitting in the exact same seat. And so I do think that a longer runway than usual, I'm more comfortable with, given the set of circumstances and where we've been and where we are going. But I am concerned and anxious, as I shared at the last session, because this does feel repetitious. We did have this conversation last year. The most significant difference between last year and this year is I think COA has really developed. They are in a much better place. I feel like the coordination, just in the last 6 months even, I'm feeling has been more clear. The communication and the dialogue is ongoing. Everyone has acknowledged how complex this system is and how it's going to take a while for us to get to where all of us want to go, and we're going to sure try to get there as quickly as possible. And so while I respect the request, I totally understand where it's coming from. I'm worried it's going to create more problems than we're actually intending to solve, because I'm worried that it's not arbitrary. It's clear, because it's there's the carryover, and that part's clear, but the two are sort of inextricably linked in terms of the overall recommendations of the operations and programs. And so that's why I'm worried that on the one hand, we're trying to get the money out more effectively and maybe in another way, but on the other hand, I'm worried that it's going to slow us down, and you mentioned it, unintended consequences, which I would need to fully think through in order to support an effort, particularly right here from the dais. So I feel more comfortable going with the executive's recommendation here, given those set of circumstances. But I think you all are feeling and seeing and absorbing where we all are. And I know you're in the same place. And some of this, frankly, is out of your control. And so this message is as much for my colleagues on the second floor, as it is my colleagues in the Department of Health and Human Services. HHS needs help. They do. We're seeing that in a myriad of different ways. And you all need to be able to have the support necessary to be able to execute the plan that you've presented. Final thing I'll say for now is the other thing that sort of brought this home for me was seeing the portal itself. And that was very helpful. And it would have been helpful to see it earlier. We could have asked, but we didn't. I didn't. But it was helpful to see it now. And so that demonstrates to me that there are, as I know we all believe, very thoughtful and strategic solutions that we're looking for here. So that's where I'm at.
Appreciate that, Co-Chair Albornoz, and I'll share what I think later. Councilmember Lukey.
Thank you. Yes, this is a complex and complicated situation from many angles and many directions. And I support the county executive's recommended appropriation for FY25. And thank you, Councilmember Mink, for raising the carryover amount. And I do think we need to have longer, deeper conversations about carryover and about encumbering funds especially when we're in tight budgets, and how to best maximize things, because to the extent that anything is encumbered and not used in one place, that means it's not available for something else, or we've created a problem somewhere else. So that's the landscape in which we live. And so I, for the most part, second Councilmember Mink's recommendation. But I think we both, in hearing Councilmember Albornoz speak, and thank you, Mr. Advance, and going through this. But I think maybe, and if you're amenable, that instead of putting it into two tranches, that we split the beginning balance carryover amount into half, and we include half of that with the county executive's recommended FY25 budget, and tranche the other half for future consideration. So I'm trying to do the math on the fly, and I think that means that, hold on, 5,540,376 of the carryover balance would go on the rec list, and the remainder of the balance we would bless along with the county executive's recommendation. Is that a friendly amendment? Mostly friendly?
I don't know how official it is, but as what I was speaking to previously as a motion or not a motion, but I think that makes sense, and I would again still be open to the conversation about that other half at full council. But I want to make sure that we're not doing cuts to the same services. If we approved immediately, which I would be happy to do, to be part of a unanimous recommendation of half of that rollover amount, then that would cover everything that was spent and encumbered in FY24. And the additional amount would be, which includes some one-time costs, but, still providing for a little bit of wiggle room.
Right. And just a future ask, please make one-time cost actually one time. We are taking note. And I will bring it up next year. I promise, because that's been an ongoing thing where people say, I'm going to make this, it's just a one-time cost, please bless it this year, and then it shows up again and again. It is not a one-time cost, and we need to be really cognizant of that moving forward. I know during the pandemic years, it was more common, and people were still going, well, we're still adjusting, but that's not the landscape we're in right now. And we need to be really honest with ourselves and with all of our executive branch agencies about that moving forward if we are to do our due diligence up here. So thank you.
Thank you. So while there's not a formal motion on the table, there is a discussion about a proposal. And we're just trying to hear where colleagues are. Councilmember Sales, you don't have to. I'm not going to put you on the spot. I can say where I am if you would prefer.
Yeah, you can say where you are. I just had a question about the dashboard, but it seems like we're talking about some subtractions. So
yeah, so we'll
wait for that.
We'll wait for that. Just so the current proposal would be to take half of the fund balance, or half of the rollover, let me use the right word, we were talking about fund balance earlier this morning, and put that on the reconciliation, or on the new and enhanced programs list. So that would mean that 16 million, what was the number? Just someone?
5,540,000.
It would be the 11,260,000 plus 5,540,000, so which is like 16,800, something like that, 16,800,000, something around there. So the question would be again to ECEI folks, what would you, if you didn't get that, if you just got 16 million as opposed to you're already proposing to do 5 million more than is you have with the rollover and the appropriation. So what would not? Do you have any immediate reaction to that?
None.
Same answer as before?
It's the same answer,
Okay.
yeah, because again, it's not an HHS decision, it's a collective. It's
Right.
COA at the table, it's MCPS, it's Montgomery College, it's all of our partners. So it's not a decision that we can make in a vacuum. We would have to go back and have a collective conversation so that we can have a unified approach to say, and also conversations with the county executive and his team, so we can have a unified approach on this is our stance and this is what's potentially going to be cut if whatever decision council decides to make.
Right, you'd have to go back just like any other time. Yeah, I think, look, we have had some of this conversation in previous years, right? And I was there, we were all there. I think Councilman Alvarez and I were only two on this dais, but when we launched the Early Care and Education Initiative, and it was a great day, and we were all committed to making sure the funding was there. We also were there, and when we talked about the bill that created now COA and the responsibilities there, and I'm very, very pleased. I want to echo the comments of Councilman Alvarez that things have improved since last year. Last year's budget conversation was not as, one, we had to make sure you had a budget. That was a problem last year, and so the executive learned that lesson, and we're in a different place, and there's a lot more collaboration this year. We still got, obviously more to do. We can always do that. I think the other point I'll underscore is the communication. I think one thing that the stuff that you came back to because we asked in the demonstration, all of that, I think we need to have more of that throughout the year. I think that's clear after this conversation or set of conversations, so that we're fully aware. It is a complex system. There's a lot that goes into it. Your head's down, you're doing the work. You're trying to get the data sharing agreement. You're doing all the stuff, but that needs to be clear to the Joint Committee throughout the year. And I know we've had some updates, but I think lesson is we need to go a little deeper in those updates to understand what's going on. I'm going to come to you, Director Bridgers. I'm going to come to you right now, actually. Go ahead, Director Bridgers.
Thank you, EC Chair Jawando. The only thing that I asked the council to consider in the Department of Health and Human Services, spent a lot of time advising the county executive on the budget, and as you think about changing and tranching, and if that's a word, adjusting and allocating, think about the out years and the implication that it will have after FY25. So when you think about those budget cuts, HHS has been there and didn't close. And think about the impacts now that you see in FY24, rolling into 25, and think about FY26. I just ask you to consider that.
I appreciate it. And so we're going to do the communication. I'm glad things are improving. I am similarly hesitant to take the funding off the table at this point for a couple of reasons. One, there has been progress. You have a detailed plan here that is on paper, and like if it doesn't happen next year, there's no questions. I mean, that there's not going to the money. We're going to have a problem, big problem, right? Even if you do all of this, you're going to have to come back with a special appropriation for the $5 million or for the remaining amount anyway. So we're going to have a version of that conversation then. If you do everything you say you're going to do, you're going to have to come back for that other money because you won't have it. I think seeing the platform, hearing some of these responses, hearing a commitment to do the spending plan and kind of adjusting over time. I wish the answer you just gave me today would have been what was written. It wasn't. It wasn't really what was written here. But another communication piece, and hearing that commitment, because the last thing I would want to see is the money be needed and it's not there, and you have to come and get it from us, and we have to speed up and do it. This is a commitment. And again, you have rollover money, but it's rollover of amounts from previous years that we appropriated for purposes that you're now, the reports. Like if you told me the reports weren't going to be done this year, I would have taken the money for sure. But they're going to be done, because that's something we've been asking for years. So I think for me, I'm kind of in the camp of, all right, here we go. We've got a robust plan. Let's make it happen. COVID was certainly horrible. It changed the whole system. You're right. The early childhood system has changed completely. So hopefully we can get there. So that's where I am. So I don't know if you want to make a motion, we can take a vote. We haven't heard from Councilmember Sales, but.
Oh, sorry. Did you want to? Okay.
So Councilmember. And we need to wrap up for the other folks. So let's whatever we're doing, let's land.
Okay. I remain uncomfortable saying like you have one more year. I mean, this is the same thing we've been saying for a number of years. Still, I understand this is we don't want to run out of money, but I think that the idea that you would come back and say we need more funds is actually a totally appropriate thing to do. Like the council, the county, holds reserves as opposed to the folks with whom we have, NDAs, and so I would be excited for you to say, like, we're spending this out and we need more and we're doing all of this good work, and I would hope that the council would move that quickly. So that's where I am on this. Again, we've been seeing $11 million, $10 to $12.5 million being rolled over each year. So my biggest concern at this point would be that we have a repeat of that at a time where we are denying funds that folks need immediately, and they're making staffing changes as a result of that, that we're putting that somewhere where it's not going to be spent out. And I understand that there's a detailed spending plan. There's been a detailed spending plan every year. It has not matched the actual spend. I want to make sure that we're covering the same services and then some, that there's room for growth. But I'm not comfortable looking at this and not learning from the pattern that we're seeing in the last few years, at least to bring the conversation to the council and hopefully get additional level of detail perhaps in the meantime. So I would still support, putting half of that rollover amount onto the reconciliation list.
So it's just a matter of functionality now. We can approve you can dissent from the approval of the full amount, and then we can note in the packet the recommendation, or we can take a vote on your recommendation, whichever it doesn't matter.
The vote would be on the by default would be on the full 22 plus, right, as opposed to
Correct.
The amount. Okay. So, well, I guess I'll make a motion on putting $5.5 million, half of the carryover amount, on the reconciliation list for full council consideration.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so we've discussed it. Councilman, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor of moving the amount, whatever that, half of the carryover to the new and enhanced program list, raise your hand. All those opposed? Okay, so that fails. So now we'll consider approving the budget as submitted. And before we do that, Councilmember Sales.
I just had a quick question. If we can still get information of what that impact would look like, because we are going to full council, and if this comes up again and we have to vote up again, it would be helpful to have that information readily available. Thank you.
Great point, and thank you. So all those in favor of approving the county executive's request? All those opposed? All right, that passes 3-2. And so with the recommendation of full council, and you can explain what happened and the proposals, and we'll get more information from ECEI and the team about implications of the motion that will not be recommended, but obviously things could change when you add 5 more, or what do we have, 6 more people. So really appreciate it. Thank you for all the information. Now we have to approve COA's budget, so don't go anywhere yet. And 2 other, COA and then 1 other thing. So we'll move quickly. Thank you for that. Ms. Yao, back to you. And turn your mic on, please.
For fiscal year 25, the executive is recommending $1,071,879 for the Children's Opportunity Fund. That includes an $88,000 increase in the NDA, as well as, a budget amendment for $231,000. So the different items that make up the $231 and the $88,000 are listed on page 10 of your packet, and we had reviewed them at the last meeting. The committee had asked COA to prioritize those amounts. They got a response back that requested that that all of these are imperative and connected to the countywide future strategic goals, and they should be considered all a high priority, and that they requested $88,000 in funding be added to their base, and then $231,200 in one-time funding be used to support data dashboard, advocacy and outreach, blueprint supports, racial equity and social justice capacity building. So that's what is before the committee.
Great. Do you want to provide any, I know thank you for, you're saying they're all important, but you're saying if you tranche them and we get less, you'll obviously make those decisions when you get whatever funding amount, it sounds like.
Yes, and when I went back to my staff team and a few members of the board, they all said, well, these are all tied to our legislative mandate, so they wanted to put all of them forward, so that's where we're at.
Understood. I appreciate that. Again, appreciate the work that you've been doing. I'm comfortable with accepting the 2 tranches, and we'll recommending both, and we'll work to try to get them off and for the full council. Colleagues agree? Okay. So without objection?
Okay.
There we go.
The last item, I'm not, is the Early Care and Education Facility Fund that the committee has heard about and talked about. It's $5 million. Funding sources, current revenue, and the fiscal year 25 appropriation request would be $5 million. It would be coming from the NDA. There is no estimated fiscal year 26 appropriation request. You've already talked about what the CDFI is and how this fund would work. And so I guess just if you'd like more information, we could provide it, but what is the committee's recommendation for the CIP amendment?
And so distinguish the CIP from the operating money and how that, what this would be used for?
I'm going to have Bibi Otero come to the table.
Oh, we got you at the very end, Bibi. There you go.
Yep. Bibi Otero, Special Assistant to Executive Mark Eldridge. So
the question's on the Early Care and Education Facility Fund, and what's this $5 million in FY25 versus the money that was in the operating budget for the CDFI?
it's the same.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
It's just you're saying use CIP
Exactly.
money, capital money.
The mechanism.
The mechanism.
Yeah,
Exactly.
the intent was to take the 5 million from the remaining balance
Exactly.
in fiscal year '24
And put it into this
and put
project.
it into the CIP project.
Got it. Okay. So consistent with what we approved, I think we would approve that transfer into the CIP, or that allocation into the CIP. Any questions from colleagues on that? Okay.
Would it be the same vote, or is
So
the?
hold on.
Oh, sorry.
We'll take another vote in case people
Okay.
want to, but this is just, I think you could be for this and not, and still
Right.
be for the other thing too, so, but potentially, this is just take the this is the CDFI project that we described earlier, taking 5 million of that rollover and putting it into a CIP project, which would do the same thing. Councilmember May.
I would still appreciate getting more information about how that $5 million breaks down. So I understand that the various folks who were spoken to through that outreach process are folks who are potentially interested in accessing the CDFI, but I would still appreciate getting some more level of detail about how, again, how that translates into $5 million as opposed to $6 million or $4 million or what have you, and that they are all, prepared to access XYZ levels of funding that add up to $5 million within the next fiscal year, despite the RFP not having been put out yet for the CDFI partner. So I'll just say I think I'm going to just abstain from this vote because I don't know how to make this decision without that information at this point.
Same.
Got it. Ms. Otero, do you have anything? Okay, great. So we'll do, all those in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? So 302. Okay, that's approved. Thank you. So is that it, Ms. Yao?
That's it.
All right, so we'll adjourn the EC HHS and let HHS take over.
All right. Thank you. We're going to start with the Office of Human Rights. I'd like to make a formal announcement. We're going to go as far as we can until 5:30. I know people likely have family commitments and plans, and we do have 2 backup sessions on Friday if we don't get through today. So apologies to everyone. Thank you for your patience. And we will start with the Office of Human Rights. I'll just start on a personal note. We see that Director Stowe is not here. I just want to continue to send him the warmest of possible wishes. And I always look forward to Director Stowe coming before us because he always provides such tremendous knowledge, and I just look forward to him coming before us. So sending him positive vibes wherever he is. Thank you. So why don't we begin with our, hold on, let me pull up the information. Sorry. Ms. Singleton, why don't you get us started?
Okay, good afternoon. I'm here with Alicia Singh from OMB to present the Office of Human Rights budget for FY25. The total recommended budget for FY25, the operating budget for the office is $2,117,953, which is an increase of $154,158, or a 7.85% change from the FY24 approved budget of $1,963,795. Personnel costs comprise 82.47% of the budget for 11 full-time positions and no part-time positions, and a total of 11.6 FTEs. And then the operating expenses account for the remaining 17.53% of the FY25 budget. There are, the budget does not include any service impacts. The recommended budget includes changes with no service impacts, and the typical ones that you'll see on page 2 under 1B. And then I can share with you the operating budget equity tool, but I can't tell you more about it. So the operating budget equity tool rating was a 7 out of 11, which translates to the office having demonstrated a commitment. The department level budget demonstrates a commitment to advancing racial equity and social justice in Montgomery County. I do know that we asked the department, Director Stowe, to talk directly with Tiffany Ward, the director of the Office of Racial Equity and Social Justice. I know they had that conversation, and so I know that there were some discussions about why 7 as opposed to 11 and what can be done about that, but I don't have that information for you.
All right, thank you very much for that update, Ms. Singleton. This office obviously is critically important. It still is not yet at the staffing levels it was prior to the recession, which was now almost 12 years ago. So, but the workload has increased. This and the previous council have been very aggressive in ensuring that there is equity in our community, and it often falls on the shoulders of this important office to ensure that that's carried out with fidelity. So it's a modest increase to the overall operating budget. Are there any questions from colleagues? No? Seeing no questions, I think without objection, we will concur with the county executive's recommendation and hopefully be able to do better next year. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
All right, we move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the follow-up to the ongoing conversations we've been having with our colleagues in the Department of Health and Human Services. I'd like to invite forward Dr. Bridgers, Mr. Hodge, and anybody else from the team that needs to be present. Thank you. All right, Ms. Clemens Johnson, are we turning this over to you or Ms. Yao? Great.
The chosen one.
Awesome. Lucky you.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much, Chair and council members. So referencing our packet, this is a follow-up work session to discuss certain items that were discussed in the previous HHS work sessions. We will start up, so within the packet, we will note what items need a recommendation or vote and which ones are informational and anything else the department could provide any responses to. So our first item is the infrastructure positions. This isn't related to any service area, but crosses the service areas. This was a recommendation of $980,000, $902, and 11 FTEs to support DHHS administrative infrastructure. It will support 11 positions that are detailed in your packet. And at the time when we met, the council staff did not have all of the information to make a recommendation. After that, we met and the HHS provided the additional information, providing detail on the 11 positions, and they are listed in your packet along with their program title and description and cost. So from what we could see, from the information that we gathered, 6 of the positions are directly related with associated with increased revenue, and the other 5 positions are needed infrastructurally, but not directly associated with revenue. And the department may say differ, but we can let them detail that. So in your packet, the department talks about how the infrastructure shortcomings and how they are trying to meet these needs through these increased revenues. So as I mentioned, the 6 positions are directly associated with it. So council staff recommendation is that we approve that the committee approved the 6 positions. This would be a total of $528,129. And then these positions would be listed on the new and enhanced programs list. For the positions that are not revenue backed, we suggest that those be listed as individual positions. So taken out of the grouping and listed, if you see in your chart here, we have broken those out. So there are 5 positions, but for 2 of them, the program manager in PACS and the administrative specialist in Children, Youth, and Family Services, we are recommending that the committee consider those as a new and improved positions to add to the department. The program manager for PACS will be administering the intensive team model of care. This model pulls together teams across the service areas to work to find solutions to address complicated case management issues, and it is intensive work. So we are recommending that position and also an administrative specialist position in Children, Youth, and Family Services. Our recommendation is that the 3 non-revenue back positions be identified as potential reductions. So we included an updated chart with all of our recommendations, and if there's further questions, Vivian and I can answer, or the department. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bridgers. At a high level, thoughts? I know that I'll tee up here. So we've had and continue to hear from vendors, providers, constituents and you have shared with us the immense caseloads, the challenges with contracting and the volume of contracts. So will these positions help or address some or all of those issues, or could you provide some further context?
Sure, thank you, and again, good afternoon, HHS Chair Albornoz. Absolutely, yes, these positions will enhance the work that we do. One of the things I want to share with council, this time last year, we talked about the 368 vacancies we have. To date, Mr. Hodge advised me that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will be under 200 vacancies. So that speaks to the work that we've done over a year. But there are also program enhancements. Dr. Nimhart just left, but all the great work that she's doing in our program analysis and customer evaluation section, she needs help. She needs help to do the data analytics. Councilmember Sales is the lead for racial disparities. This is where we get the data from. These are the positions that we need to increase the work that we do. And 11 of the positions go to support the infrastructure. Mr. Hodge and our fiscal team, Mr. Rundell, looked at those revenue generating positions. Staff that we need to do the fiscal and handle our fiduciary responsibilities, and we need staff to continue that work. So at the highest level, these positions are necessary for us to not only do work, generate revenue, but also do the data analysis that we need to inform not only the council, the executive staff, but our community and partners as well. And data sharing is always a challenge for us, looking at the interoperability of the many sources that we pull data from, and we know that there's a lag in getting data. This is the resources, the human resources that we need to bring those capabilities closer to home, if you will.
Thank you. Mr. Hodge?
Thank you. I'm Mark Hodge, the Chief Operating Officer for HHS. So these positions, while 6 of them will directly impact our revenues and the ones that council staff recommend, the total number of revenues that we're going to be getting, that we anticipate getting in FY25 is far more than the cost of these 11 positions. So I understand the theme this year is fiscal restraint and responsibility. We believe that when we were doing our budget numbers for the FY25 submission, we were looking at what's most important. For us, it was not growing programs this year. We've done that for 20 years. What was important to us this year was growing our infrastructure and right-sizing the department. We are nowhere near that with 11 positions, but it's a good start for us. To only do 6 of those, maybe 8 that were recommended, gets us a little bit closer. But the 3 that are not recommended by council staff, one is for the holiday giving program. We have been piecing that together for years. We are unable to keep doing that in the way we've been doing it. To have a full-time position allows us to work more closely with the nonprofits to increase the number of kids and families that we can serve, because we will be able to talk with nonprofits. We will be able to recruit more nonprofits to participate in that. Now we kind of try to piece things together in the best way we can, and we always have a large number of families that don't get served during holiday giving because we just don't have enough nonprofits and spots to be able to do that. That's one of the positions. The other is a special, an additional fiscal person for SEF. We keep having to come back to you with supplemental funding for SEF. The fiscal person that's doing that is so overwhelmed with everything that's happening in that space. He needs help, and this is our way of being able to provide that. I'm not saying that we won't come back to you for more money, because the housing problem is much bigger than one fiscal person, but we will be able to address a lot of those needs in a much better way than we have been. And so I'm hoping...
What's the 3rd position, Mr. Hodge?
Yes, and I can't off the top of my head remember what that was.
Program manager.
The program manager one in the chief's office.
Oh, right. So, and that's the same. That 3rd position is also equally important. They will be providing assistance to many of the things that we're asking children, youth, and families to add to their plates on a daily basis. And so, like I said, we thought about these things when we asked for them. We could have asked for 40 positions. Sure. That would have right-sized us. Yeah. But we asked for 11 because these were the most important. To not give us these 11 this year doesn't mean we won't try to come back next year with 11 more. But it's really important for us to right-size the infrastructure at HHS. We've talked about the administrative struggles. I know that you've asked to come back after budget season to talk about some of those challenges that we're having, and I'm very happy to do so. But this is the right direction, and I'm hoping that you can speak as passionately as I have for these positions when you come before full council to do this. This is fiscal restraint. This is putting us in a place where we are going to make sure that we are making HHS more efficient because we have the infrastructure to do so.
Jason Rendell, Budget Manager HHS. I just add to echo everything said, and that these positions are all supported by revenue. So it's at 0 cost to the county to provide these positions because the revenue that is anticipated will offset them. I know it could be easy to say, well, we'll take the revenue generating ones and still assume all the revenue. But I would say that even those that are not generating revenue, they contribute to our revenue picture. One of the big challenges we have is people having to do multiple different things who might be supposed to do billing revenue, do focusing on revenue stuff, but they're having to do all the other administrative activities as well. And so while these positions might be categorized categorized as non-directly revenue generating, I wouldn't say that we should just assume the full amount of revenue we're projecting without getting all of the positions that we've requested in our budget request.
Thank you. I have a couple comments and questions, but I'm going to yield to colleagues first. Councilmember Sales.
Okay, no, I just had a quick question and a comment. Just thank you for working towards addressing some of the vacancies that we've seen in HHS. With regards to the position you mentioned for the holiday giving program, what would they be doing throughout the year? Holiday giving is just for the end of the year, so what sort of tasks do you envision for this role?
So there's a lot of education that happens throughout the year for nonprofits. Like I said, we've been piecing it together with other positions who have other jobs. And it does ramp up as we get closer to the end of the year. But our ability to recruit other nonprofits to participate in that space, our ability to provide training to help them understand what the needs are, that they can do Thanksgiving turkeys and they can do Christmas hams and turkeys as well as gifts. And so the larger number of nonprofits we can recruit to help in this, the more families we can serve. If we don't have a position to be able to do this, we'll keep trying to piece it together, and we won't get all the nonprofits out there that are available to us. We've tried to do marketing, we've tried to do other things, but we haven't had the opportunity to be able to do the comprehensive training and marketing in that program that we wanted to. So that would help the year-round position, and it's not a high-level position.
No.
It is just a program specialist.
It's a coordinator.
Yeah. It does
so-
coordinate that for the rest of the year. Yep.
No, I certainly
And
understand.
data, and it will do the data.
Because you know I'm going to ask about data.
We can't provide as much
I do
data now
want to
without
say,
it.
yes, how many more families will be able to serve, and how many more nonprofits will be able to accumulate into our network for these particular programs, because I do see the return from what we're able to piece together now. I know it makes a significant impact for our families, and so looking forward to hearing updates about that. And then I'm just glad that we're moving away from contract roles, and if we can prioritize any new positions with what we are currently paying in contractors for next fiscal year, I would love to see more about that in any data you have, so we can bring that to the full council and in anticipation of next year's budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sales. I'm just going to jump in really quick. Those are good questions. Candidly, the latter two positions are more consistent with what we've heard in the past from staff and various division chiefs. This is the first time I've heard about the holiday giving issue. I'm familiar with the holiday giving issue because, again, I used to run a pretty large county agency, and I know what it's like to recruit, and then it's not easy. I think it would be wise to separate those three if we are going to move with any move forward at all. So I would propose the latter two in a tranche. I'll just be candid, I'm not going to support the holiday coordinator position, as wonderful as that sounds. That also in light of, we're kind of keeping score among our colleagues in other committees, and so I've got a good sense of what is the most likely to be successful moving forward to the goal line, and I just don't think that would be one of them. But Councilmember Lukey.
Thank you. And so I think we're in the same boat. And I appreciate the council staff's recommendation on approving the 6 infrastructure positions, the program manager and the administrative specialist for the child and adolescent school and community-based services. I do agree on the remaining other 3 positions. 2 should be grouped together and 1 should be kept separate for later consideration. So I'm comfortable with that.
Councilmember Sales, are you comfortable with that as well? It's okay if you're not, of course.
Yeah, only because, you know, I was going to ask if this position, since it is 2 events a year, would they be involved in any grant writing opportunities to offset And because this is, these are all positions supported by revenue that HHS is generating, I didn't see the impact, but
Fair point.
any
Did you-
details about providing a grant writing component to that role for the holiday giving?
So, yeah, absolutely. It's something we could do. We would want to make sure that this person's busy. So, and I know that we're focused on these two end-of-year big events, but there is a lot of pre-work that has to be done. And if we can get additional grants, if we can get additional assistance from our nonprofits to do a little more, then yeah, we will. This is not somebody who's going to languish in HHS.
Yeah.
I would also state that currently the holiday giving program is essentially managed by our data people. And so what you would see is while this position wouldn't be doing data, it frees the people who are now having to do the holiday giving program to actually be able to do more robust data work throughout the year. And so it would enhance the department's data capabilities by having that position.
I appreciate that. Did you want to add anything, Dr. Bridges?
Thank you, Councilmember Sells. I just was going to echo what Mr. Rundell said. It definitely strengthens, if I could say it this late in the afternoon, strengthens our capacity building assistance. And so, yes, it's late in the evening, so I will limit my discussions, but I will weigh in when necessary.
Thank you. So no, I'd like to keep it with the staff recommendation.
Got it.
Thank you.
All right, so, well, the staff recommendation is to not do all three.
I'm sorry. So to keep it as the HHS has recommended, to include it with the full consideration.
Okay, so we'll make a motion on that then to go with the HHS committee recommendation. All those in favor? All those opposed? Great. I'd like to move then that we do this in 2 tranches. The second 2 positions being 1 tranche, and the holiday giving position being a second. All those in favor of doing this in 2 tranches, please raise your hand. That is 2 to 1. All right.
Yes, and just for clarity, those would be the ones recommended under potential reductions.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
But we're recommending that they not be reduced, that they be in 2 tranches, though.
Correct. Okay. Thank you. Next item?
Yes.
Okay. We will move to the contractual funding. This again was discussed during April 11th, and this item is not connected to the any one service area. This is a FY25 one-time budget adjustment to reflect higher than expected contractor costs at $3.1 million. We did discuss this during the committee work session, and the department cited that that due to an increase in lapse and an increase in overtime, and the expectation to use additional contract and broker staff, that they would need this funding throughout the year to utilize contractors to continue providing services. So the committee agreed with the council staff recommendation to split this item into 3 tranches. But we did review the information and discussed with the department, and wanted to make the recommendation then, rather than 3 tranches, we split into 4 tranches, and that the last tranche of $1 million be split into $500,000 and $500,000, and identify the 4th tranche, $500,000, as a reduction. So that is the staff recommendation. So the 1.1, the 1 million, and 500,000 be on the new and enhanced, and that another 500,000 be identified as a potential reduction.
Dr. Bridgers or team, reactions, thoughts, impact?
I can just to clarify on this item, as it was spoken before, HHS has a large number of vacancies currently, which we backfill with brokers for essential staff. I believe this year it's a lot more than what we've recognized here. I think it's in the $5 to $8 million range of what we're expecting to do this year of PC savings that are then being backfilled by essential staff. In the budget process, we increase the contractual staff and increase the lapse together, so they're offsetting, recognizing that we wouldn't be able to fill everyone, but we put a budget for it that projects us filling a large number more of vacancies than we did before. doing this reduction, already I'm tasked with looking at what positions can be backfilled for next year. It's renewal season and stuff, would make us have to make hard decisions on whether positions, essential critical positions like social workers and stuff that are currently being backfilled, we would not be able to because we wouldn't have the fiscal capacity anymore too, because this would be essentially reducing our PC budget available to serve those essential positions.
Thank you. Questions, comments, colleagues? No. I do concur with the staff recommendation on this one, acknowledging there are going to be tough decisions. It's still a net increase, and we're putting you all in a better position, acknowledging we're not going to be able to do everything. And I think it is helpful to demonstrate to colleagues, particularly in other committees, that we are being judicious, as we always are, but it candidly helps lift all boats. So, in a weird way. Ms. Clemens Johnson, let's keep going.
Okay. The next section, please refer to your packet. There are some that are informational that I won't go over, but I will mention that the demographic data for VITA is included in the packet. And under aging and disability, there is more information in your packet about the nursing homes and the senior lunch program. But moving to adult medical daycare, there is a decision needed on the on Part B. So included in your packet is a list of the 13 providers who received the supplement in FY24. There is a recommendation from the CE that you all accepted of 3% increase for $64,743, and that was for these 13 providers. The other two weren't considered when the 3% was recommended. So the request from MD and the MADS is for $200,000 for 2 new centers. Those 2 new centers, the department has said they are eligible, and they believe that the $200,000 would be sufficient to split amongst them joining and receiving a supplement. But yes, and so DHS will provide additional information. We were kind of getting more information as we were talking through this today, but Dr. McGee can discuss the specifics around the 200 and the addition of the 2 new providers.
Good afternoon. Patrice McGee, Chief of Aging and Disability Services. So yes, the 2 new providers, there was a discrepancy in the original ask, and it wasn't presented at the time. It was suggested that the 2 new providers were included, but then we discovered that they are not included in the original ask. So once we do the calculations based on the capacity of those providers, then yes, that amount that they're requesting would be sufficient for these 2 new providers to come into the consortium. So these 2 new providers, one was deemed eligible in 2021, and the other was deemed eligible in 2022. So they were approved through Medicaid, so they just have to make sure that they adhere to the COMAR and make sure that they are in compliance and they are in alignment with their scope of work within the department.
For me, it's important that 2021 and 2022 is not that new. They've been operating and they're serving an important constituency. So that makes a big difference for me as opposed to if they had just opened in the last 6 months. But Councilmember Lukey, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I was going to say that those were you've answered most of my questions because I was wanting to know when did they come online, where are they in the licensure and credentialing process, knowing none of that is easy and it's complex and it's cumbersome. But I guess, and the only other question, and it sounds like the answer is they're ready now and ready for starting July 1. Is that?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And also just to be clear, so all adult medical daycare providers are not necessarily in the consortium.
Correct.
They reach out to the department, and if they want to become part of the supplement, that's how it happens. So these 2 entities were operating and then decided to join the consortium.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Understood. Thank you for that clarification.
Councilmember Sales.
Yes, I appreciate the list that was provided to us about the current centers, but I did notice that the Up County area was lacking, and so I don't know if there's any efforts for outreach to assist with inviting or letting people in the Up County know about the opportunities that exist, and just wanted to see what's happening there.
Right, absolutely. Thank you for that question. So I know that our partners with adult medical daycare, they do go out and they recruit and they talk to other providers. From the department perspective, we do, meet with our adult medical daycare providers. We don't do any specific outreach or advertising to these entities, but we do make individuals are made aware that it does exist. If they do come into the consortium, of course, then that would make us come back to you asking for an increase, because the supplement calculations are based on the seating capacity of the center. So that's also something to consider as well.
Thank you for that. Okay.
Yes.
I support it. You guys okay? Okay, without objection?
So just to be clear, are you adding the 200,000?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, sorry. Yes. Sorry, we're going back and forth. The next item is under Behavioral Health and Crisis and AHAP, talking about the opioid fentanyl education and awareness for young men of color. So the department provided this additional information about the program AHP has and their work with Behavioral Health and Crisis. They provided additional details, and if there's any questions, the department should be able to answer.
Councilmember Sales.
Okay, I just had a question about how are we measuring success for this event? Are we providing childcare and linguistic services?
So great question, Councilmember Sales, and we need to do that. Dr. Santiago is joining the table, but many of those services are focused on community-based needs and family strengthening. So part of that is part of the response or the way forward, but we need to evaluate the impact of the programs. We're moving from great work that we've done in the Latino community with our partners, and we're shifting to more Afrocentric community partners to support with this. So we are looking at the best response plan for that, and some of those metrics will be included in our response and planning for that.
Okay, and childcare, because some of the barriers to attending programs like this. Want to make sure childcare will be provided.
And I will present some of those questions to the African American Health Program Executive Committee and the program as part of their planning process.
Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next item is the Treehouse Child Advocacy Center of Montgomery County. The committee requested follow-up on this item. The committee is concerned about the capacity of the organization to provide therapeutic services because of the conversion of a therapist position into a forensic interviewer and the reported growth of the wait list for therapeutic services. The committee had questions about the wait list, Treehouse staffing, but DHHS didn't have responsive information. So the executive director, Mr. Regan, is here. And he can answer other questions, but we did get some follow-up information about the wait list. There are 36 Spanish speakers and 18 English speakers on the wait list for trauma therapy services. There's no reported wait list for other services. It might be useful to know how long it takes to get a child services when they are on the wait list.
Great. Hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Sorry, what I provided you, if you look on the right side of the folder, is more of the budget and data information that I think you were interested in. So, no, thank you. So, I guess we'll jump right into the wait list. So, as you see, so the longest we also have along with the number of children or clients on the wait list, we have an aging report, so we know how long the latest one or the oldest one is on there. And we have a few of the clients on the wait list go off the wait list, and then for whatever reason with their non-offending caregiver not being able to bring them, they go back on, if they're unable, there's an interruption in service. In the past, we've averaged about, the maximum is about 2 months, about 8 weeks. Right now, we're currently We have our oldest is about 5 months on the wait list, but the majority of them are since January, February, the vast majority. One of the reasons for the increase in wait list that we have currently is staff capacity. So we currently have one Spanish-speaking therapist who's on maternity leave and another one who is about to go on maternity leave. And when they're about to go, that means they sort of ramp down, and we cannot reassign any long-term therapy clients to that person. And then, as indicated, one of the therapy positions, which unfortunately was a Spanish-speaking therapist, was eliminated to bring in the forensic interviewer position.
Do you have a question? Councilor Maluki?
I do, but it's about some specific items that were in the packet, not necessarily
Sure,
what you
no
said.
problem.
But that's thank you for discussing how people might be on the wait list, then they hop off because they're not able to get there, and then they're back on the wait list because it looks like the transportation budget or transportation access budget has tripled since the pre-pandemic level, and obviously that's an impediment to the kids being able to get to the services or the families being able to get to the services. So could you talk to me a little bit about that and how that increased cost for the transportation piece is impacting the overall lack of fluidity, shall we say, within your budget?
Well, yes. Well, again, the demographic of the clients and their caregivers that we service, we're not required. We've seen an increase. I think last year, I included on the one side our annual report from the previous year. Mm-hmm. We've gone from about 60% Spanish-speaking to closer to 80% right now. A good percentage of those, I don't have that figure, are undocumented as well. So we have, it's not only they may not have the transportation, but it's also a time of day issue. They can only in the evening or early morning, that type of thing. The good news is, we've gone away from sort of juggling multiple taxi services to, a HIPAA compliant Uber Health program. And the cost is, like you said, it's more than tripled. We do have some strategic programs to try to receive outside support to get that. We're having less luck with grants, but more with sort of targeting corporate support, that type of thing. One of the things I would say is the only downside of the sort of the Uber Health is the no-show. So CACs, Child Advocacy Centers around the country, average anywhere from 20 to 25% sometimes of either cancellations or no-shows, and when the no-shows come up, you pay for that transportation whether you have it or not. Right. So we're trying to do as best we can to sort of be most efficient with the costs, but at this point, I'm not, that's one thing we don't want to cut if we can't, because it's really important for the children to get there. So.
Right. And I definitely appreciate, my former father-in-law was a pediatrician, and his practice was in Annapolis at the hospital at Anne Arundel Medical Center, and the population he served largely had to rely on public transportation, but also had such a high no-show rate that eventually the practice shut down that location, which then left all those people without the spot that they could get to when they could get to, which is not what you want to have happen, especially not with a population as vulnerable as the children and families we're talking about here. In terms of the liquidity within your back and forth of your funds to cover things, questions about timing of payments from the county. And this is a bigger, broader issue, but you're the one in front of me right now. So,
absolutely.
Understanding that the drawdown requires documentation and things that you have to put in, but it's my understanding that the language in our statute requires 30-day payment terms. And is that what's happening, not happening? What's the average that you're experiencing in getting the reimbursements back presently?
Yes, no. I think our relationship with our contract administrator is fantastic, and she's been very supportive. So when we submit the invoices, there is a very quick turnaround on those.
Okay.
When for us, it's more of a how contracts are managed. It is, and this is just what I've been told in the last 2 years since stepping in this role. It's kind of a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
So, or at least it has been for us. So, and what I mean by that is everything we have is reimbursable. So whether it's a state funding or the county contract, the problem we have with our cash flow is the Treehouse, while it was set up as an independent 501c3, 2017, I think officially, 16, 17, there is no endowment. COVID, I'm tired of using COVID as an excuse, but I will tell you, as a background, when COVID hit, the then directors we didn't have any of the PPP forgivable because we weren't sure it was going to be forgivable.
Right.
So they ate into what savings we had. So this is our issue. So when I mean cash flow, so with reimbursable, particularly with the county, so with the state funds, for instance, and other grants, they require here are your invoices, and you submit that. With the county, the pendulum kind of has swung where it's documentation on here's your bank account, a detailed bank account, credit card statements that it prove that the money was taken out of the account.
Okay.
And that might, that's normal, I guess. The problem we have is if we don't have it in our account to pay for it, we can't get reimbursed whether it's in there or not. So it becomes managing a cash flow.
Yeah, so it's a catch-22 because
it really is.
You can't show them you paid for it if you can't have the cash to pay for it and then get reimbursed.
Exactly. So we get very tight at the end of every quarter. But that's one of the goals. So we have a strategy moving forward. One of the things is not bringing in, but taking an existing person and moving into a director of operations role, more of a day-to-day, which will allow free up my time to focus outside and developing not just some of the grants that we're looking for, but really private foundations, corporate partners, and corporate support, which we have virtually no corporate support from the county. It's a wonderful cause. Everyone believes in what we do, but it's an uncomfortable thing to attach your name to.
Right.
So it becomes difficult. So we do have a plan of action, and I've been working with our board, but yes, cash flow is very difficult the way it's currently structured on.
And then you mentioned the increase in Spanish-speaking clientele, which is of course the majority, 80% are Spanish speaking, and sort of losing the clinician who had the Spanish language capability, but then you have a program manager who does, or a supervisor who does, is that right?
Yeah, so we have, of our 15 full-time staff, 10 are fully bilingual in Spanish and English. Now, they're not all therapists.
Right.
Which is where the problem with the waiting list is, the ones who either have gone on maternity leave or about to go, or the position. When I say we eliminated it, that person was going off from part-time. She was going to leave anyway, and so instead of replacing that person, we transitioned that. So it's just to be clear. So the issue isn't, I don't think we really rely on outside for Spanish speaking any services, because we also have, in addition to the therapists, we have fully certified support staff that are medical certified bilingual translators. So, but it's really just what we're talking about, the trauma therapists.
Right, because my question was going to be the clinical director, if they were, which they are bilingual, correct? So I didn't, yes?
No, she's not. She's not.
She's not, okay. No. Then scratch that, and you've answered my questions. Thank you.
All right, so Ms. Yao, what exactly is the decision point before us on this one?
So the question is, does the committee want to explore either a couple things? Council staff understands that in some instances, the county does provide, a limited amount of upfront funding for nonprofits, again, to help with cash flow instances. And I didn't know if the Treehouse would qualify for that kind of treatment, and would HHS have an opinion on that?
Mr. Advance, I saw you come down, or Mr. Hodge or Mr. Rendell. Any comments on that?
I mean, that's something that certainly can be explored. I don't know. That's definitely something that can be explored. I don't know that that's a council action. Obviously, that's a contract issue that would go, that would be asked for, and then we would work with our county procurement office and county attorney's office. I think it's involved to approve any of those, or fiscal team. I'm not sure, but.
So it sounds like there's an openness to it and a dialogue and conversation that needs to happen. It sounds like that will happen.
Yeah.
So
Good.
the
Well, thank you.
discussion.
Okay. And the other thought was, does the committee want to put in funding to support a therapist position, for this year? It gives them some extra time then to, implement their strategic funding plan and, hopefully
How much would a
improve,
therapist position be?
Well, with fringe and we're probably looking about $100,000. So they have to be fully certified and licensed therapists. Just to give you, if I can just 1 second to give you a little, there's some positive news. So this year we implemented a PSB, it's Problematic Sexual Behavior Program. So when I stepped into the role about 2 years ago, in meeting with all of our partners from CPS, MCPD, and MCPS, the number one thing they all said that we're lacking in the county is a Problematic Sexual Behavior Program. Turns out, as I found out, there was only 3 in the state. One in Prince George's County is no longer, and then there's an individual one down in La Plata. Sorry. So we're the only one that does the group therapy. So we found outside funding, and all of are trained in it now, are going through that process. So we launched it in the fall. We have, and that is a group therapy for children and their parents. For this program, and it is a constant rolling program. It's proving very successful, and we want to, in my words, sort of institutionalize it this fall with MCPS. But we have both Spanish and English parents and children running that program. But all of that is with existing staff. So just to let you know, if that averages 5 or 6 hours a week, that's 5 or 6 hours that isn't going toward outpatient potentially. Clients. So it's, we've added more services that were deemed necessary, gotcha. So there's some real positive things that we're doing as we're trying to fill the needs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Colleagues in HHS, any thoughts on the staff thought on the additional position? I know that if you could just speak at a high level regarding need in this subject matter area. Obviously, Treehouse is an important partner on many different levels, unique in how they work directly with HHS, but just would like to get your professional expertise and thoughts on what Ms. Yao mentioned. And then Ms. Sales, Councilmember Sales has a question or comment. Yes.
I think we're just prepared to support Treehouse, and that you're the experts, you're the ones who are seeing the children, serving the children directly, and you have a better sense of the need. So we're prepared and more than happy to support wherever the assistance is needed.
Great, thank you, I appreciate that. Councilmember Sales.
Can you explain to me what the line item for consultants is being used for?
Yes. So currently, I am considered a consultant, a contractor, and our pediatrician is. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, if I was on payroll, we have to make payroll. That's our number one. I'm going to be open here. And that's our number one priority, and then the vendors. So when we are cash tight, the contractors don't get paid. And our physician as well, she's in a position that we don't need the benefits and the fringe aspect of it, so it's actually a money saving aspect for the Treehouse currently. Does that make sense? I mean, we're full time, but and then there's other contractors like our we don't have a full time IT, so we contract for that, and our accounting bookkeeper is considered part time as well.
Oh, okay. If you can just break that down when we go into full council.
Sure, I'll give you a detail.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all.
All right, so what's before us is the possibility of adding one position in Treehouse for $100,000. Yep, so without objection, yep.
I was, would this be ongoing, or I was thinking, one time, but I don't know how the committee feels about that.
I think it'd have to be ongoing.
Okay.
Yeah. But it will compete with everything else that
As I
we're
say,
talking about.
the mechanism for it, though, would have to be a grant or something on an annual basis, or a funding.
Be a contract.
Contract with,
Yeah.
Right.
It would
So
be added to the contract.
Can I
I
come
just
back
feel
to
like
an
it's good to
exact amount?
specify that.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Can I come back with an exact amount? It'll be close, but I
Yes.
just.
Sure. Yeah, 100,000
Thank
was
you.
a nice round number.
It was, wasn't it? I was told there'd be no math.
So certainly the process, once the budget's approved and if this is in it, we would, just like any other contractor, we would go back to Treehouse and ask for a budget. So
Right, absolutely.
yeah, so an exact number is fine. Yeah.
Great. Just, I've toured the treehouse. It's really important work. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your leadership.
Well, I would say as I heard last Thursday, I received a call from, we're talking with our Maryland Children's Alliance, which is sort of our state oversees all the 24 CACs, and they said, quote, the Montgomery County is the gold standard of CACs in Maryland.
That's great.
Sometimes you don't see that in the day-to-day, but it was really good to hear. And the support that we receive from DHHS and the county's been fantastic. For the first time ever, if you haven't been to our new place, first time ever in the history, we're in our own secure area for the kids. And it's so that our
Mr. Reagan, I'm going to have to cut you off because we need to move on.
Oh, gotcha.
We're running late, but
Well,
thank you
I
so
appreciate
much.
it.
Appreciate your leadership.
Thank you.
Yep. And we'll get back with the specific number, but in principle, we're supporting the additional position.
Yes. Okay.
Now let's move on.
The next item is the Maryland Vietnamese Mutual Association. In the executive's original fiscal year 25 operating budget submission, he had recommended the elimination of the program in the Child and Adolescent School and Community-Based Services Program for a reduction of $87,321. The committee was concerned about the impact of this reduction on the clients of MVMA and understood that the organization provided culturally sensitive services to vulnerable residents in the county. The committee requested clarification on the population they're serving, the current needs of the community, and the contract scope of services. On the table on page 14 of your packet shows service numbers provided by MVMA, and MVMA also had requested contract changes that shift from the contracted service that they provide of tutoring services and parent engagement to helping LEP immigrants access benefits and services. The contracts are attached at the very end of the packet. They were actually added online late today. Anyway, so council staff understands that the executive is supportive of restoring the funding to the MVMA as a contract to be administered by the Asian American Health Initiative. So if the committee would like to continue funding for the program, then it should recommend adding that $87,321 to the new enhanced programs list.
Love this solution. Raises all boats. Love it. I support. Yeah. So without objection.
Oh, there was.
Sorry, Councilmember Lukey.
Yeah, there was the one comment I was going to make about, because, and thank you, we did ask for some clarification because the contract was from 2010 and it renewed every year, but there wasn't updated language in the contract and so on and so forth. But in terms of parameters or what sorts of things you need back in terms of contract performance, that maybe you do an addendum to the contract moving forward. It would be administered, like I said, through the other health program, but that will help level set everyone about what everyone wants to see delivered and help everybody stay on track. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Great. All right.
Okay, the next are follow-up items for public, under the Public Health Service area. The first was the question on the strengthening the Maryland Public Health Infrastructure Grant. There was a question about the work of the grant in the prior years, and they listed that here it funded 2-term positions. I think the dental hygienist, one of the positions is still being recruited. And for the other position, the candidate is expected to start next week. And the grant also supported numbers of contractors.
Great. Dr. Ashford, did you want to add anything?
No, other than we are excited for Dr. Davis as special assistant to start May 6th.
All right. Well, thank you for that clarification. I didn't have any other questions. So without objection.
Okay. For licensure and regulatory inspection data, this question came up during the public health work session on the FY24 data compliance. There is a summarized highlight of what the COMAR rules are, but on the top of page 16 are the actual data and numbers for the inspections that the LNR has provided, except for the top 2, which are food inspections and pool pool season inspections, the department is at 100%, but for food inspections, they are at 52%, and for pool seasonal inspections, they were at 81% of the mandated inspections.
Oh, okay. That's very helpful. Thank you. That provides some clarification.
Okay, great. The next is the question, there was a question about the Montgomery Cares reimbursement rate. The recommendation from the county executive was $1.8 million. Staff recommended that it be split into 3 tranches, which the committee supported. So the question was, if they don't get $1.8 million, how will they support and manage the $1 million that is proposed? And so there is a attachment in your packet, and in general, they said this is the minimum needed to maintain the existing safety net, and that a lower rate could result in some staffing cuts, limited capacity, and longer waits or inability to accept new patients. And so I just wanted to provide that information and note that we still have the committee's recommendation as of right now for the 3 tranches.
Thank you for that, and let's make sure that's added to the talking points when we discuss this to the full council. It's an important point.
Will do. And also included the note about the dental collaborative, something that we'll come back to in the fall or the summer. The next item which will need a vote is the motel sheltering. During the April 15th work session, there was one-time funding proposed of $2.5 million to continue overflow sheltering in motels. The committee requested additional information on the historical spending for motel sheltering, which the department provided. On page 17, there is a listing of the, at the time there was use of COVID funds and general funds that were used. So the amount provided and utilized for overflow sheltering is listed in your packet. So council staff revised their recommendation based on the data that was provided, noting that the recommendation of $2.5 million this year, that is not the total amount which is listed in your packet, which will support the whole program, which is $3.4 million, but recommend that there be that the 2.5 be fully funding. This is a change from our initial recommendation. We initially recommended splitting it and considering $500,000 as a potential reduction. But based on the numbers, the executive's recommendation is a decrease from what was spent in FY24. So we do not recommend any further reductions.
All right. Yep. Without objection, we concur with the amended recommendation from council staff.
Thank you so much.
Councilmember Luther.
Just since I agree, just since Director Hung is here, and thank you all for continuing to work on better ways to help support folks. One of my questions was at the last discussion we had about this, and trying to knowing that moteling options are not optimal. Has there been thought or consideration to setting a time parameter in which people are able to then be placed, knowing we may need to start thinking about what else we're doing to work with DGS to say, hey, we need additional space to support folks. We need additional, supportive housing. We need additional places, especially to deal with families with children. So do you have any comments that you can give us as we let that ferment over some time?
Sure. Thank you for your question. So because there are so many external factors that have been barriers for families, including the availability of units that can be afforded given the subsidies that are available,
Right.
as well as ongoing suspected landlord discrimination, we do not want to impose time limits because we don't want to be in a position where we are putting a family, we're saying you can no longer stay.
Oh, yeah. So I didn't mean
I'm
like
sorry.
an expiration date, because it just, no. But like, what is like sort of the optimal time in which you would be seeking programmatically to be able to get people placed in more permanent shelter that's not motels, that's not one of our shelters?
In general, do you mean housing? Just providing housing?
Yes.
That is always the
Yeah, I know
plan.
that's always the
Yeah.
goal. What I'm asking is, optimally, what's the, like, knowing there's no cutoff date, right? But optimally, what might we need to do in order to expedite getting people more placement in more permanent arrangements, whether we need to take on collaboratives to increase our permanent supportive housing capacity.
Yeah.
Right, and what that looks like. I think if you can sort of say, here's the landscape we're in right now, and knowing that, again, we had other moteling related to COVID, but what I'm looking at most importantly is the overflow motel number, right? And how do we then say, how do we help get them to where they need to be better, and what would it take for us to get them there?
Yeah, I definitely think increasing the amount of housing available and those resources would be a huge help for our families. We do have resources such as permanent supportive housing and rapid rehousing, but we need more of it. We also need to build the capacity of our community partners who provide those housing interventions. Some of them, especially the family providers, have struggled to remain financially sustainable.
Right.
So I'm looking at a variety of different solutions for them, including looking at a rate study for our housing initiative program to see if we can adjust the rates by which they're being compensated, because a number of them, most of them have said they've struggled over the past few years. It's devastating when a family partner, which a number of them have said that they can't sustain their operations, and when they pull out, that significantly impacts the capacity to provide permanent supportive housing as well as rapid rehousing. So SEF is looking at how we can assist in that area. But yeah, in general, more resources for those programs. In addition to that, our short-term housing and resolution program, SHARP, which is an innovation providing 12 months, up to 12 months of rental assistance as well as security deposit. With less, it's a light touch case management. That has been very effective with families. So, and those funds have been limited. That's based on what has been available through DHCA, and I would love to see that program continue. So there are a variety of different resources that I would love to see expanded.
Thank you, and thank you for sharing the success of the SHARP program. That's good to hear. And Dr. Bridgers?
And the only thing I'd like to add, Councilmember Lukey, our team, including Ms. Hung this morning, just advised the county executive on those additional practices. The key that I cued in on was working with DGS to look at those buildings that are available to have restorative housing and supportive housing. So I know Ms. Hung has been talking and discussing as a strategy. So I wanted to make that point that we are exploring those opportunities.
And we can expand upon that at a more full committee session when we get an update from SEF formally, but that's a good segue. So next.
I'd say that's a good segue to the rest. Items 2 and 3 that basically we will be coming back during the fall to discuss motel sheltering and the other parts of the work that SEF does.
Great.
So item 8 is a follow-up on the guaranteed income pilot. Most of the items here are informational that were requested during the work session. In your packet, you received a screenshot that the department shared of the CLIF program. And the department could detail any information about that. But the rest of the packet, I think, talks about, answers the question about those unemployed, the number of participants that have SDI as their source income, which are none, and the parts of the contract that focus in evaluation are detailed here.
Great. I didn't have any other questions or comments. So that was for informational purposes?
Yes, and that completes the follow-up.
Thanks. You were here for 4 hours for that. Sorry about that. Just saying. But you got some entertainment in between. So thank you all so much. This concludes the conversations we've had with HHS. We are going to give it our best shot. I will follow up if there are any talking points, data points, high level stories that you think will be helpful as we go before our colleagues, before full council. Please do not hold back. Share those with us and central staff, and we will make sure they are included in the packet. I will try to make an equally compelling and passionate plea, Mr. Hodge, as you did, It's been 4 hours, I think. That was a slip, Freudian slip. But thank you all so much for your continued leadership. And with that, we are adjourned. Thanks.
Interlude from Old Georgetown Road, Maryland 187 to Georgia Avenue, Maryland 97.